Now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. I'll accept a motion to approve the April 10th, 2024 agenda presented before us this evening. May I have a motion?
A motion to approve the agenda for April 10th, 2024.
Thank you, Nohalani. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Any discussion, additions, corrections? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion to accept the April 10th, 2024 meeting agenda carries. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes. The minutes for the BOE meeting on March 20, 2024 are presented for approval. May I have a motion to accept these minutes? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Vice President. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion to accept the March 2024 board meeting minutes carries. At this time, we will begin with comments from Dr. Cota.
Okay. So good evening, board, staff, and members of the community. I hope everyone had a great recess and happy holidays. We are in our final stretch of the school year with just a little over 2 months remaining. Third quarter marking period closes on April 22nd. I'd like to highlight our successful STEAM camp that happened this past break. Thank you all that made that happen, especially our Department of Innovation, Equity, and Engagement, but that's a collective effort amongst all departments within the district that helped in making that a successful program. Today and tomorrow, New York State ELA assessments are taking place. Students in grades 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 are in the process of taking these exams. The tests are computer-based for students in grades 5 through 8. The tests are untimed, which means the students have as much time as they need within the school day. Next Monday and Tuesday, students in grade 5 will take the test as well. We will look to share our participation rates as soon as they're available. We have been talking for months about our DEI work, the DEI survey for parents. This morning we launched the survey. Parents and guardians were emailed the link to the survey. We are hoping for a high participation rate. This survey is important because it provides feedback in reference to our DEI efforts across the district, and it also aligns to our DEI policy. We will continue to send the information to parents in email reminders while we keep this survey open, and that survey will close on May 1st. We are also, through the DEI efforts, focusing on our focus groups for parents will also be held in May. We will be sending the schedule out on those as well. Information is on our website, including some frequently asked questions and what to do if you need assistance or did not receive an email with the survey link. I'd like to also highlight our Gear Up program, New York Gear Up, which is focused on our 8th graders, is partnering with the City University of New York to offer virtual workshops for parents of students in grade 8. The workshops will provide parents with tools, resources, and a network of collaborators to help support them as their 8th graders transition to the high school next year. This session will be held next week on Wednesday in the evening. Gear Up is also holding a freshman transition program this summer, August 12th through the 15th, with the high school administrative team. Families of incoming freshmen will be invited to the family event on August 15th. An interest survey was emailed to parents this week. Summer enrichment program will close on Friday, and as of today, we have a little over 1,300 students registered. So if we can kind of promote that for the next 2 days, that we can increase those numbers, that would be great. We are also still accepting applications for the 24-25 pre-K lottery. Applications are due by April 26th, and the drawing will take place on May 1st. We'd also like to share that MBK will be hosting its first symposium on Saturday, April 20th at the high school in the auditorium from 12 to 2. And our Shades of Sisterhood will be launching. We had to postpone due to weather, but that postponement now is scheduled for Saturday, April 27th from noon to 3 in the high school as well, in the auditorium. Focused on our middle school and high school girls who are invited and their families. As you may have seen on our website and social media, we are looking for family members of the 86 Mount Pleasant High School graduates who died while serving in World War II. A plaque was uncovered from storage after one of the construction projects here at Mount Pleasant. We will be holding a rededication ceremony and will hang the plaque back up in the school on May 31st. Thanks to the passion and effort of Mount Pleasant social studies teacher Steve Balog, Andrew Waite from the Daily Gazette met with Steve this week and will be publishing a piece in his column on Thursday. Steve is also collecting information on the graduates with hopes of inviting family members to that event. I want to give a shout out to 5 of our winter sports teams. Before the holiday recess, the New York State Winter Scholar Athletes teams were announced. To qualify as a Scholar Athlete teams, to qualify as a Scholar Athlete team, 75% of the team members must have an average grade point average equal to or greater than 90%. Congratulations to our boys and girls varsity track and field team, our varsity boys wrestling team, our varsity boys swimming and diving, and our varsity girls bowling. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our president for comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cotto. We will now have an opportunity, or board members now have an opportunity to share comments. We will start with board member Vivian.
Good evening. So just before the break on the 28th, I had the privilege of attending a music production showcase at Schenectady High School. I'm a little biased because my son was a part of it, but I have to say that I think there were 18 students who showcased their work. They created amazing music and projects, and I just wanted to say publicly that I am so incredibly proud of every student who participated. I think that Mr. Casano is doing a wonderful job with our students. They're so incredibly talented, so incredibly dedicated to their gift, and I love how he just pushes and encourages them to challenge themselves and to try new things and to take risk in music. I was very impressed and very blown away by everything that I heard and saw that day, so I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Thank you, board member Vivian, and board member Erica.
We're sharing a mic. We have to be careful if we both go to talk, we don't headbutt each other. And I have no comment.
Okay. Thank you, board member Erica. Board member Amanda.
No comment tonight, thank you.
Thank you, board member Amanda. Board member Kathy.
I had the opportunity this past weekend to attend the National School Boards Association meeting in New Orleans. Bernice was also there, and we had wonderful sessions and heard from 3 keynote speakers, including Ruby Bridges, Tim Shriver from the Olympics, Special Olympics, and something called Dignity Index, which we had spoken about before, and the last person was Richard Montanez, a name that was not too familiar to me, but he is a person who had introduced products for Latin American customers in regard, they're for Frito-Lay. In other words, they were snack products. And it was either 14 or 40 different products that he had invented for, or started for that company. And what was so exciting about it was his success story, because he had literally not graduated from school. He ultimately completed his degrees, but he started as a custodian in the business, and when it was announced that his plant was closing, he went to work. He took the president of the company at that time. Literally, he had done a video asking for suggestions on new products and this sort of thing, and he literally did it in his kitchen and with his wife's help, and he started that entire thing and became ultimately the vice president. I believe he's retired now, vice president of marketing largely for a Latin American population. So it was a real success story, and it was very motivational, as were the other 2 whose names you probably know more about. So I thought that it was a wonderful conference, various sessions on everything that you can imagine related to schools, and so that's my item to share. Thank you.
Thank you, board member Kathy, and board member Jamaica.
Hey y'all, I'm gonna do it every time just because you made a thing about it. I am still flying high from Holly. It was a wonderful showcase across our district. Got to see somebody get some chalk on them, Dr. Kodo, when we were over at Lincoln Elementary. But it is a season of holidays, right? And our diversity within our district has shown through. And so for those that don't know, it is the end of Ramadan right now. So Eid Mubarak to those that celebrate. I was very, very happy to participate and fast during Ramadan this year. And I specifically was fasting for Gaza because of all of the reasons that I'll talk about in a minute. But I was invited to go to the Islamic Center on Brandywine and celebrate Eid there, and it was absolutely beautiful. Special shout out to Fatima, who gave me some traditional clothes to wear. Yes, I have photos. Yes, I looked amazing. But just one of the things that really struck me as a woman of Christian faith is our similarities, not our differences, and how closely aligned we truly are. And the number of children that were there. There were young babies, there were other students that were in the room that had been there. And it is that unity that I see within our district. While some are worried about there being a division, what I'm finding is more dialogue and us coming together. Everyone got a chance, well, not everyone. Everyone up here got a chance to have a snack. In celebration of Eid. It is from a locally owned business, Mizan Kitchen. They're a local Palestinian baker who the family lived and grew up in Schenectady. So full circle, really happy to be able to support that. As we sit here wanting to make the best possible decisions for our students to be able to have an education, there was a children's press conference on Friday, April 5th. And during that press conference, a number of children from our district spoke in support of calling for a ceasefire and replicating the call for justice from Palestinian children that happened in November of 2023. There's a video of Palestinian children who are pleading for help, who say, we want food, we want water, and we want an education too. And as we all sit here as educators, wanting to make sure that every child has a quality education, there are children who their schools have been destroyed, universities have been destroyed, the deans of universities have been murdered, professors are no longer capable of teaching. And so right now, we have the ability to say that every child deserves an education no matter where they are. And I hope that we take that seriously and consider the diversity again within our own district. Because we have Palestinian families here, we have Muslim families here, as well as a full diaspora of other folks. And the ability for everyone to feel as if they are cared about and cared for when we know the trauma that impacts our students, when something happens in their lives, whether it happens directly in our community or if it happens across the globe. And right now, in less than 5 months, 10,000 children were murdered in Palestine. We are now over 14,000 children that have been murdered in Palestine. The amount of time, I don't think folks fully comprehend. Over 2 years, the war between Ukraine and Russia, 500 children were murdered. No child should die. No child should be murdered. In 2 years, it was 500 children. In 6 months, it was 14,000 children. And the children that are still alive have been amputated without anesthesia. They are not going to school. They don't have a safe place. They don't have a lovely building like we have here to go and know that there are people that care about them and love them the way that we show up for our children. So as we are coming on this celebration of Eid, which is to be a celebration, let us not forget that there are children that are not eating. They are starving. And their celebration is one filled with pain and agony. And let us look for ways that we can support the families here who are being impacted by that every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. Vice President Nohalani.
No public comment?
Thank you, Vice President Nohalani. I will give my extended comments at the end, so we can transition to conducting official business. But I do want to mention 3 things. I do want to remind everyone that the 30-day public comment period for the Smart Schools Bond Act is on our main website. There's an email provided to submit your comments and questions, and this is for the community and also as well as the school community. There's a short narrative that explains the act as well. In the future, the board may discuss the Bond Act and our community responses elicited from the public comment period. Okay, and then the other thing I did want to mention too is that, yes, I did attend the National Board Association conference, and I will share a lot more information at the end of the board meeting. And then I also want to mention that Student Board Member Representative Zohana will provide her first report at our next board meeting on April 24th. Okay, so the next order of business are the consent agenda items. The consent agenda item includes items that are approved by consent without a vote and were previously sent to the board for review. However, single items can be considered separately and taken off the consent agenda by a single member if they wish to do so. And there is a member that would like item 9G removed from the consent agenda item. And we will discuss that item after we vote. So are there any others that would like, any other board members that would like an agenda item pulled out? Board Member Amanda?
I was hoping to, and maybe you can tell me if I'm
That's
wrong,
okay,
but
go ahead.
are we going to be able to talk about 9F before we vote on it?
Yes, yes, we're pulling it out to have a
Okay,
discussion.
that's what you're pulling out, 9F?
Correct.
Okay, you said 9G.
Oh,
just
I'm
so
sorry,
you know.
9F.
It's okay, just, okay, that's
Yes.
why I wanted to.
Okay,
make sure.
so, yes, no worries, and I'll clarify. So 9F, Social Studies grades 6 through 10 curriculum resolution will be pulled out so we can have an open discussion, okay? So resolutions 4 through 9G, with the exception of Resolution 9F, the Social Studies grades 6 through 10 curriculum resolution, as itemized, so with the exception of that one, as itemized on the consent agenda are presented for approval. I'll accept a motion to approve these items with the exception of 9F. May I have a motion?
So moved, Kathy.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Second?
Thank you, VP. And we will begin with discussion, and we'll begin with Board Member Vivian, who originally asked for the item to be pulled out.
You need to vote then.
Yes, we will take a vote, so I will,
No, I meant the,
Everything except.
everything.
Oh, yes.
Everything, yes.
yes,
You
so we,
didn't call for the vote.
yes, so we will call for a vote. May I have a motion to approve, again, resolutions 4 through 9G with the exception of 9F?
That was
That was
me.
Kathy.
Yes, Kathy, and then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And we will accept numbers 4 through 9G with the exception of 9F. Thank you. And now we will begin with Board Member Vivian.
Thank you. So I looked over the PowerPoint that was emailed to us over the weekend concerning the new social studies curriculum for secondary grade levels. I have several questions because from what I understand, we're supposed to be purchasing published material from McGraw-Hill, but we're utilizing a framework authored by Dr. Goldie Muhammad. Am I understanding correctly?
I will ask Valerie if she doesn't mind coming up and answering some of the questions. Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes,
We need the mics for the.
for the public.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can, thank you.
So speaking directly to that, what we will do is, like with the K-5 curriculum, we take that curriculum, we deposit it into a template for unit plans, but we also incorporate Dr. Muhammad's framework within that. So although it doesn't have it in the McGraw-Hill curriculum, we impose Dr. Muhammad's framework on CRE into those unit plans so that it's driven by CRE, but the curriculum comes from that packaged McGraw-Hill curriculum.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that because I do, that leads me to some follow-up questions here. So I did do some reading behind Dr. Goldie Muhammad and her work, and some of what she has stated in interviews gives me pause for thought, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. She discusses intersectionality and criticality, and she is quoted as she describes her own pedagogy as critical theory and critical race theory. So if this is the curriculum that we're going to use in our school district, are we now going to be forthcoming with the community in that we are in fact implementing pillars of critical race theory in our curriculum? Because previously it has been stated that we are not.
I don't know if I can personally speak to that. What I know is we are using the Dr. Muhammad framework in all of our SC/SD written unit plans that teachers are writing and creating. So, I would keep within that parameter of Dr. Goldie Muhammad, and again, kind of imposing it on this curriculum in order to make sure that we're not only highlighting the diversity of the district, but if there are gaps in this curriculum, which there probably will be, we can also fill that with additional resources if needed. So, I think separating out critical race theory and, talking about CRE, I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that directly as far as a district initiative on critical race theory.
Well, the problem is that she says it herself, that that's a part of her own, she says it herself. So if we're using her work as a part of our framework, I don't see how we can, truthfully speaking, separate the two. So if we are in fact using certain pillars of critical race theory, such as intersectionality, unique voice of color, woke ideology, those are pillars of critical race theory. So what part of her work that does not include pillars of critical race theory, if that's not what we're using, and you provide material that backs that up?
So I want to just kind of back up a little bit so that we can give a broader context of how we use Dr. Muhammad's work and curriculum versus resources. So when we, especially at the secondary, when we have content area experts delivering the curriculum, there is going to be a resource like McGraw-Hill, but we need to, respond to the students that we have in front of us and New York State curriculum. So many of our companies like McGraw-Hill are national companies. They're not state. We have to make sure that our state standards are incorporated. The framework that we would use with Dr. Muhammad is just that. It's a framework. And the 5 pursuits that some of you guys have read about just help us drive that framework. So asking our teachers to look at our students' identity when we look at a unit is a fair thing to do. We're wanting to make sure that all of our students feel like they're represented in the curriculum. Asking for them, criticality, the word criticality really is just around that we're talking about, things in history that happened in our past, but how they relate to the future and how our students become change makers. Intellect is just the academic standards, so they're no different than any objective that we would create. Skill is no different than what we do for any lesson plan. It's talking about what the students would be able to do. So really what we're talking about is a framework to help make our resource and our New York State standards come alive.
Right, and I did gather that the connection between the two. Let me provide some context as to why I'm asking these questions. So she said, if we start with Blackness, or the group of people who have uniquely survived the harshest oppressions in this country, then we begin to understand ways to get literacy education right for all. That line of thinking or that ideology kind of treats Black people, Black children specifically, as a monolith. And this is why, one of the reasons why I'm questioning, again, what specifically of her work, how much of her framework is going to impact the lens in which the curriculum is going to be taught.
So we use those 5 pursuits that I was talking about. And so those 5 pursuits help us take a resource, the New York State standards, and help them look at the students in front of us, the students of Schenectady, and make sure that we reflect the communities that we serve in our curriculum. So with a pursuit like identity, we're looking at it's asking the teachers
the teachers, the social studies teachers of Schenectady, to not just look at the history in a singular way, but to look at the students that we serve and reflect on their identity when we create a unit plan. Criticality is talking about not just thinking about the past, but how our students can make a change in the world. You know?
Right, so when you follow critical race theory, it redefines the understanding of what we've always known racism to be, is to be a prejudice or a disdain or hatred against someone based on their color of their skin. CRT, and from what I've heard her discuss about her definition of criticality, redefines the understanding of racism as power plus privilege. And because all white people by definition have some level of privilege, and therefore they inherently have some type of inherent racism, whether subconscious or conscious, intended or unintended. So if this is a lens being used to teach social studies as a material, I'm wondering, where is there room for a student to view this topic objectively? Because we're diving into a realm where there's really not, we're presenting the material through a subjective lens and not an objective lens. So this is why I'm questioning this. I have an issue with this, and I don't feel comfortable voting on bringing this material in, utilizing her framework or her influence on the curriculum, unless I have seen material that specifically shows that we are not, in fact, utilizing any pillar of critical race theory. Because when you hear the words coming out of her own mouth, that's exactly what it is. We can dress it up and call it something else if we want to, but if we're gonna look at this honestly, that's what it is.
I think that there's a couple different pieces. One, when we're looking at a framework that's influencing a curriculum and the person who developed it, we're not using critical race theory. We're not saying that we're going to now implement critical race theory as part of our academic structure, because that's a collegiate course. This is not that. Additionally, while many individuals talk about the unity behind Blackness, it by no means assumes a monolith. There is a shared understanding and experience based on the history of this country, and each of us are still individuals. The history did not change. The laws and policies that have been implemented based on the history did not change, and how it impacts individuals based on either their race, their gender, their socioeconomic status, there's like all of those other boxes still happens. Us being able to take a curriculum that was not necessarily created for a diverse population, that had the mind of everyone just needs to learn it this way, this one way, but we're being mindful to say, you know what, that book by itself does not allow for the diversity of our district to teach every child the things that they need to know, to be critical thinkers, to be leaders, and to themselves move forward in looking for information, knowing your resources, all of that type of stuff. So taking a framework from Dr. Mohammed, which we've all had a whole bunch of information on, and applying it, I think, is well thought out, considering the immense diversity of this district, including that, what are we at? Like over 70% of our students are students of color, and the largest group within that is Black students. I appreciate that we're willing to not simply accept the book as it is given, but look for ways to adjust it to ensure that all of our students are fully educated in not just a way that they understand, but in a way that is true, and not, it by no means does it guilt anyone into thinking that all white people are racist. That's not it. To talk about privilege and your proximity based on certain standards as they exist is not an item of guilt. And I say this very clearly with a white mother and a Black father. So I hope that while we may not all completely agree on what Dr. Muhammad says, but that we can agree that the educators and administrators that are looking out for every single child in this district are looking for how they can use resources to apply it in a way that benefits all children and not just some of them.
And I'm going to
So-
turn it over, sorry, to Board Member Amanda before we continue with Board Member Vivian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't intend for it to be on the same topic, but it is. So I'm looking at the presentation and under like the non-negotiables part of it, it did say like we cannot use the traditional narrative of history and must bring focus to underrepresented groups. And that to me, like the CRT bell went off a little bit, so I was hoping that you could explain a little bit more into that. I think you did touch on some of it already, but if you could, explain that a little bit more, I would appreciate it.
So I think also within the curriculum, you have to remember that it's not a scripted curriculum, so teachers will deliver this as a curriculum, and to Jamaica's point, teaching history, but, what comes up for me is we are also changing our language around this. We used to refer to it as slavery. People were enslaved. It's about what was done and how we respond to it and how we use our words. So, when you talk about diverse materials, I think too the representation through the book and through the inquiry journal with the language, with the pictures, with the representation of what you see, our teachers make it come alive for the students. And within the framework, using the curriculum, it is their job to deliver a diverse curriculum, which could include some outside resources and, again, that spoken language that pays deference to the correction of history and words. So I hope that kind of speaks a little bit to that idea of
Yeah,
diversity.
I do have a follow-up question to
Yeah.
that. So with that being said, so the teachers are still going to have room to help the students interpret history. So I guess my question is, how do we know that CRT is not making its way into the classroom? And sort of, where would that line be? How I know that it is a big concern for a large part of the community. I do think that we need to make sure that our students understand it from the basis of who they are, because it does help them learn. But because it is such a hot topic issue still, how do we make sure that that's not making its way into the classroom?
I think a large part of any piece of curriculum or whatever is being delivered in the classroom is also part of professional development and getting groups of people together to kind of, norm, for lack of a better term, norm what that curriculum is going to look like, how it's going to be delivered, and what we really need to do with it. So, making sure that they're having conversations and they're having professional development around it. And understanding, when it comes to not just New York State framework, but the curriculum and what we are doing with CRE, it's got to be ongoing. It has to be ongoing, because you're not going to put them in a classroom and just say, deliver the materials. So that's part of my job. That's part of OTL's job. It's just always make sure that people are, moving ahead, but in the right way.
And just for clarification, I think you're talking about you're talking about critical race theory. I think you're talking about culturally responsive teaching. So,
in a way
I-
that kind of, does not, so that it doesn't tip those scales into CRT. Making sure that, again, they're delivering that curriculum and having the professional development and understanding what those things are.
What is the definition of CRT? What's the thing that you think is CRT is that is wrong, that we have to be
I'm
worried
just going to
about?
interject for a minute. When you said CRT, are you thinking about critical race theory? Because there's there's culturally responsive teaching too, so I'm not sure.
They can get
which one.
confused, right?
Yeah, just to clarify.
Right, so that actually is my question, where's the line between
Oh,
the two?
they're
Okay.
different.
They are different.
Yeah,
They are
very
different.
yeah.
And one is, I think, a lot more complicated, and when Jamaica talks about a college course, right? There are schools and there are areas that are digging into it. I've done a presentation on, I don't think of it as a dirty word, it's something out there that we should learn about. But I think when we talk about a social studies curriculum, though, what we're trying to do is empower our students, because as much as we want social studies to be objective, it can only be so objective because there's somebody that's writing it, right? And so we ask our students, we're asking our teachers to show our students artifacts. Like the biggest thing we want them to do is to look at the objective parts of history, the primary sources, the artifacts, and for them to draw logical conclusions. And that's what our teachers should be doing. So much so that a student would be able to say, I think you're giving your opinion, right? That's the best possible example, is for our students to be able to do that. I'll give you one of the most embarrassing stories that I don't want to admit, is that I did go to college, I loved my college, and I was taught in my Civil War class that the Civil War was not about slavery, that it was a states' rights issue. Well, that's not true, and when I became a teacher, I repeated that until I learned better that we use that language purposefully in this country for a very long time to not talk or use the word slavery, now enslaved, right? And so it's like exactly what we've heard this comment before: when you know better, you do better, you learn. I hate telling that story, it's really embarrassing to me, but it serves its purpose, because if I just took what I learned and did not look at documents, look at current readings, and get better, then I could also say that same thing in our unit plans in social studies when I was in Val's position.
And just one last, just general comment. I do agree to some, at some point in a person's life, learning about CRT is important. I do think it's more of like a collegiate, because it's
Very complicated.
class, because it is very complicated, and I believe that you need a very mature mind to understand how it, has impacted the world, honestly. So that's it. I'll wrap up. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
And Board Member Jamaica, and then Board Member Vivian.
I guess I'll just answer my own question. It's a college law framework. CRT is a college law framework. So there would be no CRT in K through 12. I think just what we're doing is what we've done with everything else. When we learn better, we do better. We find that there has been misinformation that has been taught, and it has caused damage for the ability of our own students to work collectively together, to treat each other with respect, and to know the history in a way that we learn from it and move forward. So, yeah, we're not teaching this particular college course in our schools, right? We do have college level courses that our students take through Schenectady County Community College. Schenectady County Community College does not have a college law course framework on CRT at this time. Maybe someday they will. So yes, our children being exposed to programs and classes that challenge them, but not CRT coursework.
When I first started here, people didn't really talk about Juneteenth, right? Right? So, it just shows, that there's history that has not been discussed. And it's not fair to the students that we are trying to serve to not learn more. And if, I don't know what you call that. Do you call that CRT because we're just asking people to possibly think about the history that they were not taught themselves? As a social studies teacher, I just think that's, a former one, and leading teachers, we're asking people to think through things that might have been left out in their own education.
Board Member Vivian.
So yes, there is critical race theory, the collegiate course. There's critical law theory, what's stemming back to the 70s, sure. But then there is the critical race lens that has been implemented in K through 12 curriculum across the country. This is nothing new. So I am not insinuating that we are taking a collegiate level curriculum and introducing it to middle schoolers, but what I am saying is, based on the person who has written the framework we are using, and I'm assuming we're using that same framework when providing the professional development for our teachers, my concern is the lens. There is such a thing as the critical race lens. That is not an objective lens, and it does not leave room for objectivity in the classroom. So if we are going to treat every person of color's lived experience as the standard for us to review and for us to learn about, if someone else wants to view that objectively, where is the room for them to be able to do so? And I'm gonna quote her again when she said, it's more than just deep and analytical thinking. She said it. Criticality is deep and analytical thinking to understand power, that power plus privilege paradigm that I talked about, equity, anti-racism, and other anti-oppressions. This is where we help students be woke. If you're just woke without the identity and the skills and the intellect, you're not going to be able to make change in ways that you could with those things. First of all, why are we talking about wokeness at the K through 12, 6 through 12 level? We have high school students that can't even read at grade level. Why is this a conversation? But if this is her mind frame, you can't tell me this didn't bleed into the framework that she authored. So you can't tell me that there's no risk for that to bleed into the way that the material is being taught, especially if during the professional development sessions, what are our teachers being instructed to, what's the lens that they are being instructed to use? Are they being instructed to use what we now call culturally responsive, the Frankfurt School called critical race theory?
I do want to remind board members, though, that all of our curriculum is aligned with the New York State learning standards. And we need to abide by the learning standards. I know that there's some concern, you're speaking with some concerns around Goldie Muhammad, but I do want to remind the board that there's a team of folks looking at this, and they have to be very mindful to, with all of our curriculum, to align all of our curriculum with the New York State standards. If there are certain things like CRT, critical, or should I say, culturally responsive teaching or culturally sustainable responsive learning. I know I've got that a little wrong, but these are all things that are New York State, that the schools have to implement in our schools. Now, so the argument is not with the district. That would be more of a state conversation in terms of some of the things that people may not be happy about, but that's not at the district level. These are all things that we're charged to do as board members to make sure that the curriculum aligns with the learning standards. We may not be fully in agreement with certain aspects of it, but if we know they're aligned with what New York State wants us to deliver to our students, that's a different argument. So many of the things that you're talking about, for example, the critical race theory, and I'm gonna kind of explain it a little differently. As social studies teacher, and I was a social studies teacher, we want our kids to engage critically about the content that's in front of us. If that is considered critical race theory, then that's a whole different conversation, because as a teacher, you want to elicit thoughts. You want kids to think about things differently in different viewpoints, not just one, not just two, multiple ways of thinking about different topics. And those are the things that culturally responsive teaching actually does. It's not just about race. It's not just about ethnicity. It's about looking at curriculum critically, asking those probing questions, thinking outside of the box about things that are presented to you. So it's very layered. It's not just one or the other. And I think that the conversation is that how are all these layers intersecting? Like when you were talking about intersectionality, and I don't want to talk too much, but intersectionality, all of us have this on the board. We're women. Some of us are women of color. Some of us are women who are younger. Some of us who are women who may have health ailments that I'm not aware of. We have many intersectionalities. We're not just one or the other. As you were saying, we're a multitude of things. But what's happening in the curriculum quite often is that those layers are not looked at. We are looked at historically, and again, I'm talking as a social studies teacher, in one way. We're not just black, right? We can be black and disabled. We can be black, disabled, and poor. These are all different traits that layer many of the challenges and resources that we may have, you know? So I'll pause there.
I think that you respectfully did kind of just prove my point when pointing out, you know, we all have an intersectionality up here. Not everyone goes through life viewing themselves as a box, nor do they want to. So now that is a decision that people like myself am able to make now that I am an adult. But I was exposed to different thought processes growing up, so I could reach that decision on my own. However, when we are dealing with children who are still impressionable and have different lived experiences and whose families do teach them differently when it comes to which lens is the best lens to use, automatically encouraging or teaching a child, listen, everybody has boxes. Some people only have 2 boxes, some people have 6, but everybody has a box. It's still it's still a subjective lens to view things. So the point I'm trying to get across here is that because we are dealing with children who are impressionable, and because, Board Member Jamaica, to your point, Black people are diverse in thought and in politics and their worldview. We need to be very careful with the thought processes that we are exposing our children to. So if we are in fact utilizing an objective lens, not a subjective truth lens, when presenting the curriculum, then that's fine. I understand that there are standards. I understand that New York State has standards and we can't get past it. I'm not ignorant to that fact. But we still need to be mindful of how we are presenting the material. And if we are relying on subjectivity to provide the material, then we are not doing our children the best that we can. That's my point.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. I am going to pause here, and I'm going to ask the board if we're ready to vote. And I will do kind of like a roll call if we're ready to vote. So I'll start with Board Member Erica. Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Board Member Vivian?
Nope.
Okay. Board Member
Yes.
Noelani? Yes. Board Member Amanda?
Not at this time.
Okay. Board Member Kathy?
Yes.
And Board Member Jamaica?
Yes.
Okay. We will take a vote. Okay. We will now vote on consent agenda 9F, which was the social studies grade 6 through 10 curriculum resolution. May I have a motion?
So moved, Kathy.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Jamaica.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, may I have a hand, please? Those are in favor. Erica, Vice President, Kathy, Bernice, and Jamaica. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Board Member Vivian and Board Member Amanda. Okay, thank you. Okay, the motion carries. 9F, Social Studies, grade 6 through 10 curriculum resolution. 5 yay and 2 nay. Okay. So tonight, we have 2 presentations. Our first presentation tonight is the Schenectady School Redesign, Year 2, by Executive Director of Secondary Education and High School, and the high school team comprised of High School Principal Dennis Green, Assistant Principals Ada Pena, Jocelyn Hoffman, David Preston, Jason Belknap. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Belknap. Thank you, Belknap, sorry, I apologize. Philip Wyman and Rich Little from SEI. Did I miss anyone? We're okay? Welcome, welcome. Good evening. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Hear me?
Yes.
I have a smile on my face for Jamaica tonight. I got no cookies. No cookies for me. So tonight we're gonna give, I would say, part 2 of the secondary redesign. Hold on one second. in December, Chris Chank was joined with me with Sarah Horchek, and we kind of talked about what was going on at our Center City initiative. City is our campus. But to focus on our pillars before I get to that, tonight the focus of this presentation is student and graduate success based on our pillars. So let me jump to this slide first. This slide kind of depicts where we were at December. I thought they did a great job. Mr. Chank, we had representative from SEC, we had Sarah. Everything to the right under Cities Our Campus, that was what we discussed. We discussed big picture, smart transfer, our new smart tech program, and now what we want to do is kind of discuss where we are with the main campus. So we did introduce individuals, and I'd like to thank Mr. Green, and his team is here in full force. I got to give credit where credit's due. This just shows support in what he's building at the high school. We weren't at this place 2 years ago. We weren't. So I'm kind of proud to see the support that he has tonight. With that being said, our agenda for this evening will be Mr. Green will present on the vision of the high school. Then the SHS leadership communities will kind of give an overview where they are and where they expect to go. And then we'll kind of finish it off today. We weren't planning to go in this direction. Where is the high school headed with their schedule? So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Green.
Can you hear me? You gotta speak up, man. Speak up. Not my team, our team, right? That's what we're about at the high school. It's our team. We work extremely hard, going through a lot of change with the rebuild, redesign, physical and programmatically. So I'm super proud of the team. They're here, they showed out. APs didn't have to come, but they're here and I love it. So enough respect to you guys, thank you. So our vision hasn't changed. Our vision is really about empowering our students' choice and voice, ensuring that our young people have opportunities to pursue their passions, to inspire students around their passion, around their careers, college, family, military, right? I've said this from the beginning. This redesign, our leadership communities are about answering the questions that I don't know that was ever answered for me in school as to why am I in school? Obviously, I know now because I'm here as an educator, which I would have never thought that. But many times our young people don't know the why. We've always been told, as I did, go to school, you'll be successful. Go to college, you'll be successful. This is about options and choices and inspiration. Our leadership communities, our LCPs, as I like to call them, our leadership community principals, has worked extremely hard at creating various pathways within each community, making strong connections with community partners and businesses so that we can set up internships for students in high school to get that experience. Somewhat like our two young people here this evening. This is an experience for them that I don't think many, if not any other district in the Capital Region is doing something like that. So we are at the forefront. As an article was shared with me this weekend about Canajoharie, creating academies in Canajoharie, I read the principal's quote and I'm like, wait a minute, did he watch our first board meeting? Because he said the same thing I said around the why and why are we creating these type of opportunities for students. So as Mr. Wyman knows, I can go on, and Mr. Preston gives me the cut sign. It's really about hearing what our team has built and where we're headed and the amazing things that we're doing, from assemblies to field trips. And when I say assemblies, I mean bringing in some awesome folks to talk from businesses to our students about what are the possibilities. So what better place to start than our freshman academy, because that is our beginning and our end. So please welcome Mr. Phil Wyman.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, we're going backwards. I was actually a part of this presentation as well. Mr. O'Mealy left me out, so I'm just going to throw that out there. It was a nice little traveling road show that I was a part of. But yeah, so I mean, it starts with the options as well, which Mr. O'Mealy alluded to. My presentation part here is going to be, and sorry, I'm not really good with standing. I was a history teacher, basketball coach in the district for a while, so I'll move around a little bit. But the biggest discussion that we have is how do we successfully transition students that are impressible and have had maybe some hardships or have struggled in middle schools or elementary schools, or are reading below grade level or even at grade level? How do we best transition them into what is going to be the make or break year? Right? There is a lot of work around and really factual, longitudinal studies that will say that this is a year that is going to be the most important, whether it defines a student making it through high school or onto a career pathway. That work starts with the transition in middle school. So I'm really happy that Kodo dropped a shout out to our Gear Up program as well, because they are going to be integral part of this work and this transition that people define as the most difficult transition. As Mr. Green said, I was somebody that had difficulty in that transition, right? Going not only from high school, but into 10th grade. And so I want to talk a little bit tonight just about what we're doing at the 9th grade level, from 8th to 9th grade, and then from 9th to 10th grade. So the first part is really around community building, right? The work that under Lisa Mead and our restorative practice team at the high school, they have been working in all 3 middle schools with held community nights, got a lot of the options out for families, because the option is not just if you want to go to the freshman academy. There are options now across the district, and I think we're paving the path in that. And so our people-specific work has been not only to align with our partners in Gear Up, but also to have our administrators working, as one option. There's a big Washington, D.C. trip coming up for our 8th graders. Karja McDuffie, one of our assistant principals, will be attending that trip. We know that visibility, if you come and visit the high school at any point, we are very visible, right? We are out and about, we are talking, we are speaking with kids and families. We have an open door policy, not only in the freshman academy, but in the building, for our families. And so what better opportunity for our assistant principal to meet with families and meet our students that are coming in, so they have a familiar face. The most scary thing people say is going into, right, a new building and not knowing anyone. And so that's a part of that package. And then the other piece that we've worked on is extending what those connections are going to be for families. So for 8th grade families, as Mr. Kodo said, we're extending a freshman connection week. So last year we did a one-day thing. We did a big family event, right? We had music, and the LCPs were able to show off their leadership communities. We had community building circles and conversations with all of our kids, but it wasn't enough time, right? It was just in a day. We barely got to know the kids. They were in, and then they were out. They all came to orientation, and then school started. And so this model comes from some of the work they do in Chicago schools. William Taft, they run a week-long program. Ms. McDuffie also has some work along with Mr. Paravella. They are partnering with Gear Up to run a full week program with some of our community partners in our RP team. And then lastly, our leadership assemblies. Very early on, as our students transition from 8th to 9th grade, and then also as we build up the transition from 9th to 10th grade, our leadership principals and assistant principals are bringing in our community partners. They'll talk a lot about those partnerships and the people that we have had in, but all of our 9th grade students are invited to attend those spaces, right? So teachers will sign up, or students will sign up to attend those events, so they are getting an early idea on where they want to transition to. So the second part I'll talk about is some of the work that we're doing in the 9th grade academy, right? So the Freshman Leadership Academy, right, that leadership piece is we are building leaders, right? And that capacity of work starts with some of the freshman experience courses we have offered. So this year we have 10-week programs offered that kind of feature each one of the leadership communities that students may go into. So students will have 10-week opportunities to involve themselves in STEM curriculum, right? Currently they're building rockets. Next they'll be flying drones, not outside. They shoot the rockets outside. The drones are flown inside. But the opportunities are there. We have identity courses where students are reflecting on who they are, right? As people, not only in their curriculum, but in this world. And so it starts with navigating what students are going to be able to connect to, right? That one connection, we know if it's to a positive adult or to a positive content area, keeps kids connected to school. So what we know from a lot of our data last year is that students, including myself as a student or Mr. Green as a student, have struggled in algebra, right? Everybody can kind of reflect of the productive struggle, right? Everybody can kind of raise their hand if you're like, yeah, I also struggled in algebra. So this year we were able to design an algebra lab with the help and support of the district and my phenomenal math teachers in their algebra PLC. They have built an algebra lab that is in the schedule every other day, provides a whole other, I guess, support for students that have struggled in that area. And so that lab has been a huge success for us. Our seminar, we've kept to below 15 students per class. So previously, students were assigned to a study hall. Now they have a seminar teacher that they're connected to in the freshman academy. So a familiar face to troubleshoot, to provide tutoring and support for students. Freshman on Track, which I talked a little bit about, is that concept of the work we do in PLCs. Students that in our professional learning communities, we have team meetings that occur every 4 days. And each one of those teams is either calling parents in, bringing them into the conversation, calling students in, providing levels of support, looking at students that are falling off track, and then putting interventions in place to provide support. So that's been a huge support for us, along with the professional development that the district has support with our AVID strategies. Just yesterday we had a faculty meeting around Tier 1 instructional practices that align with the work that we're doing around Wicker. So the idea for our teachers also to be streamlined in some of what are our best practices across the academy. So shout out to all my freshman academy teachers that have really bought in to that work. And a lot of the instructional conversations happen also in those PLCs. That has led to a huge increase for us in our AVID acceptances. We are over 100 students now that will be taking the full AVID elective next year. So our goal as a school is to be an AVID school. So we're moving up in that process, and we hope to elicit that same involvement from our 8th grade families coming into 9th grade, as we will offer an AVID elective next year in the freshman academy. We've also developed the Rise High partnership. The other leadership communities will discuss more about the partnerships that they have developed with our community partners, but that is also a STEM opportunity for our students on Saturdays. iLiteracy, iReady celebrations, we have been doing quarterly, so we're looking forward to the quarter ending. Not that we're rushing the school year, but we're looking to celebrate, hopefully another 100+ kids that have made jumps in their iReady scores. We had a huge celebration second quarter. And so we look to continue that. Our promotion of our leadership communities has also continued in the work that we are doing with promoting the visibility of leadership communities and what they have to offer. So we hosted 2 weeks ago, right before break, we hosted a leadership community event or fair in the cafeteria, where all of the leadership community principals were available for discussion. They had students, they had Mr. Belknap had arts and bands, so he kind of showed out a little bit, but it was all student performers. So to raise awareness about that transition into the leadership community for next year and what students want to be involved in. And then this year, new to us, on May 23rd, we will do a leadership community acceptance day, and so we will block out some of the schedule of that day and take all of our freshmen, almost like a signing day like you would do for college. They will sign into and be accepted into a leadership community for next year. So we're super excited about that work, and a lot of this preparation from the 8th grade transition to 9th grade, and the 9th grade transition into 10th grade, into leadership communities, is built around, we're going to be in a new home soon, right? We have, next year that we're going to be in the building, right? We know it's going to be a packed building with SCLA closing for construction. And so we know there's going to be a lot of people right, at the high school. It is going to be crowded, whether we'd like to say it or not. And so we are in preparation and building the foundation of us being in a new space, right? And so that new space, our staff is really excited about. They are you have to be passionate. I'll say I've been in district 17 years, 14 years I've been involved in either teaching freshmen or a part of building community as an engagement supervisor in the freshman classrooms to now the freshman principal. You have to have a passion, right, to be able to motivate and support and, be talking with families every single day. And that idea of passionate people, when I say a freshman academy is ready to be at an SCLA building where we're going to have ownership of that space and be able to build that supportive and culture of care environment. To that, Rich Little is going to speak a little bit about what that new building looks like, some of the plans, some of the design and discussion around that space and some of the innovations that we're looking to do there. So I'll pass it over to Rich and then take questions at the end.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and support this amazing work that's going on. And that's really how we feel. We're here to support. And the work that's been done with the freshman leadership team through the summer, obviously we did this first couple of projects very escalated, and we really want to thank the members of the team that put in the effort. We worked over the summer, did a lot of work on not traditional times, so thank them for all that stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the space and how it's transforming and what the building's going to be looking like as people arrive after the year of construction. And to us, this is fantastic because it's just the start. As you start talking about the rest of the high school and all the things that are going on at the high school, we have a tremendous amount of work going on there with our teams and your teams there too. So on the left-hand side, this is an image of the entrance as you're approaching the building. One of the key things is we're changing the location of the main entrance. We're creating an area where drop-off, arrival, departure, some additional parking there so that we can alleviate some of the community concerns about parking there and also staff and visitors. So we're creating a new entrance canopy element that'll draw people's attention to know that that is the entrance to that building. The image on the right-hand side is the doors right there at the building as you enter that space. The next images are in the lobby as you're coming into this space. We're transforming with colors. We're brightening up the hallways in these areas, using a lot of, use the term branding and identifying Schenectady with colors throughout. You're also going to see wayfinding in the building that'll transform and direct students to where they're supposed to be. This space is the cafeteria. It's going to be quite a dramatic change from what it is right now. It's still going to be in the same location, but right now they're served out of a small, what was a service area. It may even potentially have been a locker area at some point. It's now, that area will be completely blown out and some banquette areas in there, some reward type seating space, some different opportunities for food venue and charging areas, and then a new kitchen delivery area and process will be there. These are the science rooms. In respect to the whole building, the building doesn't generate enough aid under New York State rules and how they fund buildings. We're not going to be able to touch every space. So in targeting those spaces, our goal was to target the spaces that all of our students are going to experience. So the cafeteria, the main entrance, the office area, the controls. The next one that was a high need based on the existing conditions of the building was to recreate the science classrooms. So in the next two images, these are some images of the transformation of what the science classrooms are going to look like. The science is generated in a very dynamic room of movement and flexibility. So you still have all of your traditional flexible lab space, but instead of having built-in locked restrictive rooms, the desks are set up so that they're mobile and movable. When you need to use a lab station or work with water, you can slide your bench up against the counter on the edge, utilize that area and work surface. If you don't need it, they can be pulled together for collaboration. They could be pushed to the outside of the room to create more opening spaces. So there's lots of opportunity and flexibility in the room, and then a tremendous amount of storage. That's always a challenge, and we wanted to make sure we enhance that here. These are images of the CT space. So the right now, it's actually I think there was a UPK, or a early childhood program was down in there, so we're opening up as much of that area as we can. We're taking benefit of the existing CTE room that's down there, and these adjacent spaces will be opened up and creating a new STEM space, a tremendous amount of storage, and again, the focus here is flexibility. There's a lot of different things going on to help set up for students to get experience so that they can experience the different academies and know where they can grow out to, and it can all happen in these different areas. Again, thanks to the team for their help and their support in working with us on ideas, looking at different opportunities to come up with these spaces. Oh, I'm sorry, one more schedule. Sorry about that. Trying to give this to somebody else. Just to give you an idea, that's the map. Each color block represents a significant scope, one of the projects, and we're right where that red line is. That's where we are here. And if you look in the back, if you looked at this closer, you'd see the blue portion that's behind it is the block for Freshman Leadership Academy. And we're just at the start. Construction will go on, carry on for the year, and then in the following September, we'll be open for full school year.
Right before I hand this off to Ms. Hoffman, so the teacher unit in Freshman Academy has been a part of every piece of the design, which I'll just give a shout out to SEI Group. Like, that doesn't happen in every space, and the support for that has been absolutely phenomenal. So a lot of the feedback has come from teachers, leaders, and our staff, our secretary, right, school nurses, so that has been huge. So now we're going to go into the leadership community presentations. I'm going to hand it off to Jocelyn Hoffman, who is leadership community principal for humanities.
All right, thank you so much. I want to start by saying I will be mentioning wokeness and intersectionality, so I apologize in advance. I didn't realize it was going to be a hot button issue this evening.
No apology needed.
Okay. So my name is Jocelyn Hoffman, and I am pleased to represent the Humanities, Communications, and Advocacy Leadership Community and present some highlights on our progress this year. So where are we now? Right now, we are knee-deep in our pathway for future educators. I'm going to describe that a little bit more momentarily. What have we done to define our leadership community? Well, we've done a whole lot over the past couple years. Number one, we established our HCA leadership team, comprised of many individuals, where we developed our mission, our vision, our logo. We explored the knowledge and competencies needed for student success in any leadership community. And then using those skills, we created a profile of a humanities graduate. And then we worked a lot on pathway option development, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And as a community, we regularly recognize and honor featured teachers and students every month. The students are nominated by their teachers, and the teachers are nominated by students. We also put out the monthly newsletter for the building. We do the daily Student Patriot Post, which is on our TV monitors throughout the building. We also put out the Schenectady High School communications on the live feed via ThrillShare. And then we put out student satisfaction surveys every month, which is a big part of our communications and advocacy piece. So throughout the year, this year, we held assemblies to promote student engagement and community partnerships. For example, we put together a unique opportunity for students who were passionate about dance and social justice to collaborate with Create a Space Now to present a live repertoire piece called Wokeness in the Body and Freedom Dance Floors, promoting a message of social justice through the arts. This event was made possible through our partnership with the founder and director of Create a Space Now, Ms. Hetty Barnhill. And we had Schenectady High School students auditioned and then were selected to perform in this piece alongside Hetty and her professional dance ensemble. And that was a really great event. We also had S. Neil Curry Jr., who is the executive director of the Fundisha Center Incorporated, and Teach Brother Teach. We had him come speak to all of our 9th graders with the intention of promoting awareness of our newly minted education pathway. This would be for any 9th grader who is interested in becoming an educator. We also had our Chinese New Year celebration. Big shout out to Jin Feng Dong, who is our Chinese teacher. So she worked really hard in collaboration with the Chinese Community Center and various local businesses to put on a beautiful event, including traditional Chinese martial arts and dance performances, as well as many different arts and crafts opportunities such as calligraphy, Chinese knot making, and painting, just to name a few. Our students and staff have advocated for themselves in our community this year, as well as last year. HCA student Cheyenne Harris was selected for the League of Women Voters of Schenectady County for 2024. The Students Inside Albany Conference, so that was really cool. She's an amazing person if you ever get to speak with her. Also a big shout out to Jane Kitch Willis, who's actually a freshman, and then Dylan Slater, who I think is Mr. Chank's student, who represented Schenectady High School in February at the Poetry Out Loud regional competition at HVCC. Jane took first place. She advanced to the state competition, which was in New York City on March 9th, and Miss Dempf, who is one of our teachers in HCA, leads that group. So shout out to Miss Dempf. So some of the pathway development for HCA, our leadership team, we laid out several options for pathways which we hope to see a little bit more formalized in the future. One of those is the education pathway called Educators Rising. I'm going to get into that in a moment. We would also like to see 5 additional pathways. I think it's 5, yeah. One would be advocacy, activism, and social justice. Another would be human services. Then law, public safety, corrections, and security, multimedia communications, and then lastly, international mindedness. So to talk a little bit about the education pathway right now, which is where we are currently working hard, the district decided to partner with Educators Rising, which is a grow your own program starting in middle and high. We're starting at the high school, leading into higher education in order to provide future educators for our own district, ideally. It is a career and technical student organization with career exploration, clinical experiences, dual credits, industry certifications, competitions, conferences, and several different leadership, student leadership opportunities. Students in this program will also have the opportunity to compete in 23 different national competitions as well. So we're really excited about it. A little bit about the curriculum. It provides a framework. Educators Rising provides their own curriculum, but it was created with support from the AFT, American Federation of Teachers, and the National Education Association, emphasizing the development of key skills, knowledge, and dispositions for high school students as they take their first steps on the path to accomplish teaching. There is an introductory training for teacher leaders on this curriculum. I could talk a little bit more about that, but to save time, I won't. I know quite a bit about it. I'm really excited. And our team at the high school presented to faculty on Ed Rising and put out a survey to gauge interest in who would want to teach in this pathway. We had several responses and ended up selecting 2 teachers who could represent both the science and math and English social studies side of the coin. And then these teachers will go through the CTE certification process, which is where we're currently at right now. So what's interesting about humanities is that it's really an intersection between all of the academic disciplines. Humanities is a general term for academic disciplines that study aspects of human society and culture, which brings me to some of the things we should consider in regard to the structure of our leadership communities and our school community as a whole. How do our communities intersect? Right now, we already currently collaborate with video production students in the visual and performing arts leadership community when we do our newsletter and when we do our surveys. They go out and they interview students throughout the school with these essential questions. Could our multimedia communications pathway be a crossover pathway between VPA and humanities? And maybe with human services, maybe we could do a crossover with STEM, because that's really science and technology minded. And then how about business crossover with international mindedness? So these are some of the things we might want to think about instead of keeping students in, these defined boxes of your business, your STEM, your humanities. We want to look at those things. How can we formalize our pathway options, the additional ones I mentioned above, in addition to education? And what will that timeline look like? Like next year, we'll be ready for education, but what about the others? I'd like to see those kind of happen quickly. Should we, and if so, how should we modify our class schedules to accommodate students with varying interests? Again, that intersectionality piece. Should we incorporate time for clubs and activities and enrichment during the school day? I don't know. I guess we'll see what the schedule looks like. We want our students to have a solid foundation in literacy, knowing that literacy includes financial literacy, cultural literacy, technological literacy, and this touches all of our leadership communities. I'd like to end with a huge thank you to the Office of Teaching and Learning, Kurt Redman, Val Smith, as well as our APs of Instruction, Wendy Osfeld and Lindsay Higgins, and HR's very own Shannon Tahoe, for all of their work on the education pathway. Thank you. Also, thank you to our leadership team in humanities for helping us build our community, and the teachers who continue to ignite curiosity in students and guide them to find their passions. I appreciate your time, look forward to where we're headed, and also you see one little picture there, that is our new AP, Justin Lansley, and he's here. Look at this team. This is amazing. I've never seen so much support for our high school, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think who's next? Just advance the slide. All right, Mr. Belknap, you are next.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. My name is Jason Belknap. I'm the principal for the Visual and Performing Arts Leadership Community. This is my first year in this role within the district, and VPA is in an absolutely great position to grow and expand our programs along with the community partnerships that are so important for our students' futures. Our LC currently puts on 2 plays, a musical, 1 student-written performance each year to highlight our students' love of theater. There's an addition to the musical showcases with the winter and spring concerts, as well as the piano recital. Other productions that VPA currently puts on is a music production assembly that just highlights some amazing student music that our students put together. Honestly, one of the highlights of my own year, as well as the kids. We also have some really passionate teachers. I'm going to mention the dance teachers have really put Project Dance in place, and that's upcoming, and that highlights some of the student-produced work in this giant, amazing, exciting choreographed show. Additionally, students in our dance program were recognized this past fall by the county legislature for their performance in the city holiday parade. Some additional visual art shows that our students are or will be exhibiting their work. There's a few, but the reason why I kind of want to mention this is you have a few different parts of creating art, be it in the visual side, be it in the performance side, or be it in the musical side. And part of that is the actual inspiration, that spark that kind of brings out that idea and that idea phrase. And then there's also like that process, that creative process that goes along with it. As you know, past art teacher, I'm an absolute process junkie when it comes to these sorts of things. And then the actual exhibition piece, showcasing that strong work out to your friends, out to your community, out to your school. And some of those include some of the traveling art exhibit that's currently housed in the Fenimore Gallery over at Proctor's. That'll be there through May. The Schenectady annual art exhibit, and that's going to be on exhibit on May 3rd at the Viewport at Rotterdam Mall. Our upcoming IB and IB art exhibition. We have a spontaneous art festival going on May 16th. If the board would like to come, that would be outstanding. We have some really, it's tough to kind of describe it other than it's a mix of dance, of theater, of music, of visual arts. And you can come with your ideas, but in that process, in that moment, you just have all these creative people working together just to produce some really cool pieces of art. And that's students and faculty, and I'm looking forward to being part of it as well. To kind of support our students and artists and inspire, of course, our artists throughout the current year, there have been 7 different art shows that we've had exhibited in the Marion Butzel Gallery. Some field trips that we've kind of brought for our students, including to see some of the iconic String Queens and Les Miserables, the All-County Music Festival, Santa College, SUNY Schenectady, because we really want to bring our students out and to see some different experiences. We've had over 11 different guest speakers with professional backgrounds in the arts to come in and talk with and work with our students. So not only are they seeing these professionals at work, but they're getting that tutelage from it as well, which is going to be so important for them building forward. We really jump into some of our community partnerships, specifically with Proctor's, obviously, because they are just amazing to us. But other community organizations such as Safe Inc., Create Studios, SUNY Schenectady, the Chime program through the Empire State Youth Orchestra, and we're partnering with the ARC of Lexington, New York, to have the Flame Band come in and perform for our students. They came last year. They're outstanding. They were just an absolute riot, and the kids loved them. I loved them too. They were fun. We also have two current pathways for our VPA. However, we're working on developing multiple pathways, including dance, theater, musical performance, digital music, and some other visual arts pathways for graduation in order for students to choose the pathway that not only inspires and pushes them, but prepares them for either a collegiate, a professional, or even personal artistic endeavors as they grow forward. And also allows them to be the most creative version of themselves. Additionally, I'd like to say that we'll be hosting our second year of the Summer Enrichment Program, Theater Camp, this year, during this summer. It's an option for up to 45 students from grades 3 through 5. And there'll be a performance on it on October 2nd at 7 p.m., and there'll be more details to follow on that. And I mentioned that to say that the future of VPA and just the visual arts and just arts and creativity in general in Schenectady and Schenectady High School is really, really high, and I'm psyched to be stoking that flame with them.
Thank you.
Any questions?
At the end? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You shouldn't ask this crew that question.
I'd like to pass it over to Dr. Addie Pena.
Before I begin, I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Cotto, the board, Mr. O'Mealy, Mr. Green, my colleagues, for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you all. This is my first time speaking in front of a board, so I hope I speak with passion. I hope I speak with humility, and I'm just thankful to be here. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I know I was going to get somebody. My name is Dr. Adi Antonio Pina. I speak to you as a former social studies teacher. I taught 8 years at Kip Tech Valley Charter School in Albany, New York. I was an assistant principal for 4 years here at Schenectady High School, and now this is my 4th year as a principal. Before I continue, I want to give a shout out to my assistant principal, Mr. Hepp, for all his hard work, and all the other APs as well, Ms. Hart and Mr. Lansley as well. I was an AP, so I know the hard work that goes, so I definitely want to give them a shout out. Where are we now as a business leadership community? The foundation starts with our vision and mission statement. Our vision is to promote the student entrepreneurship passion and foster academic skills to create innovative thinkers. Our mission is to provide a diverse and rigorous curriculum consisting of elements from entrepreneurship, business administration and management, and develop leaders building enterprises. Right now, we have 2 New York State approved pathways, which are the Business and Administrative Service and the Entrepreneurship Pathway. My 10th, 11th, or 12th graders are taking some of the, in addition to the core classes, they're taking the following courses: Intro to Business and Business Communication, which are college credit courses, Financial Literacy, Entrepreneurship, and Career Financial Management as well. Where will we go for the future? A pathway that I would like to see we take advantage of is the finance pathway.
From my understanding and from research, when students graduate with a finance major, they're making some of the most money on graduating from high school. So I want our students, specifically black and brown students, to be exposed to this pathway, so when they get to college, they already have a sense of knowledge of what it is and feel comfortable. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is about exposing our students. Me growing up, I was born in the Dominican Republic, but I was raised in the Bronx. I grew up in a similar environment to a lot of our kids, and all I knew was the four corners of the block. However, because of my high school principal and the high school that I came, I was exposed to, whether it's working as an intern, whether being exposed to business leaders that came on a monthly basis. I was exposed to so much that it inspired me to become more. And I know that we can do the same thing for our students. And the number one thing is exposure. So I say that to say this. We are currently collaborating with Siena College for the high school to MBA program. This past month, in March, we took roughly 30 students to Siena as a college tour. But in addition to that, they met with Dr. Rashmi, who's the dean of the business program there. They met business students. They took mock courses. So once again, my whole thing is about, not just me, excuse me, our team is about exposing our students to different opportunities to help motivate, to help inspire, and become more, and reach their goals. Recently, I've been motivated to take advantage of the trades. I had the opportunity to bring in the Plumbers Union from Latham, and also an entrepreneur by the name of Andre Goodby, who owns his own electrical company, into the school and talk about their experiences. And I remember my heart warmed up when I heard students literally afterwards telling them like, oh, you inspired me. I want to be an electrician. Like, that's what we're about right now, okay? I know Dennis and Mr. O'Malley will talk about it at another time in another board meeting. When it comes to graduation rates, right? Like we anywhere between 72 to close to 80. So we're minimum gonna have 20% that don't graduate. What are those 20% gonna be doing? According to statistics, we know what they're gonna be doing. So how do we tap into those 80%? So I'm thinking promoting the college tours, trades. I mean, we gotta help inspire those students, not just the people that are gonna graduate, but once again, the 20% that we're not touching. What have we done to define the business leadership community? Number one, we've completed the mission and vision statements, our logo design. We've presented at Leadership Community Showcase, Future Patriots Day. We have reopened and operate the school store, which is opens on Tuesdays and Thursdays during lunches. We started the monthly t-shirt design contest, which showcases students' designs. We help operate the school banking Patriot branch, which happens on Fridays from 8:15 to 9:30, and we've partnered with First New York Federal Credit Union, who we've been working with for more than 15 years. We do a weekly newsletter that we send to our business leadership staff. I've shared some of our major events with the Superintendent Weekly Report, which has been shown in the past year. We've participated in the GA Stock Market Challenge that happens in the University of Albany. This year, we didn't do as well compared to last year. Last year, we came in first place. We came in like the top, out of the 5 places, we came in like first place, 4th, and 5th, I believe. And we got a free trip to the New York Stock Exchange in New York City. And I was able to go. We went with another teacher and 2 other students. And first, that was my first time there, you know, and I'm from the city. So I was just in awe. So I can't even imagine our students. And they were like, well, I see myself doing this. And I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You know, so it's just exposing our kids. We've participated and done the business plan competition, which happens in SCCC as well. Field trips. As I mentioned before, we did the Siena. The past like 6 weeks, we've been very busy actually. So once again, shout out to HEP for attending a lot of these events. We did the Siena College field trip on March 15th. As I mentioned before, we met with Dr. Dean Rashmi. There were some mock classes. The class that the kids took was economics, accounting, and finance. And they also participated in a School of Business student panel. We did the Wisdom Sharing's Youth Summit Wednesday, March 20th. That took place in Proctor's. I've been working with Nicholas Clay. I know some of you guys are aware of Nicholas Clay for the past 2 years. So he kind of led that event. And I'm going to be honest, I was a little hesitant. I didn't know how it was going to go. But when the kids came back, they were like, that was so much fun. They really enjoyed it. There was at Proctor's. There was a lot of activities focused on self-improvement. The kids loved it. And I was very happy for that, what took place there. March 27th, we went to the UA and participated in the Junior Achievement Stock Market Challenge. They also had a tour of the campus. Once again, exposing our students, very important. On April 16th, we're going to be taking students to MetLife Stadium for the Jets Sports Business Day. I'm a Giants fan, but it's all good. Our kids are going to be exposed to what happens behind the scenes, concession stamps, marketing. Like our kid, even myself, like I didn't know about that growing up. So once again, exposing our kids to just different opportunities. And of course, we're going to have the business plan competition, which is going to take place May 22nd. It's for an opportunity for our students to present their business plans to local leaders, college faculty, guest speakers, and just networking opportunities. I know from prior pictures, I've seen some of you guys participating in that, so major shout out to board members who've done that and helped our kids. The guest speakers and business connections we've had in the last 2 years, once again, I'm very thankful and humble just to be in the same room as some of these guys. Will Rivas is the CEO of Common Unity LLC, who was a former student. He gave his story when he came to Schenectady High School. We have Markai K. Robinson, who's the CEO of MK Robinson International, who helped inspire our young ladies owning their own business. And I remember her talking about she didn't even graduate. She got her GED, and it just kind of became an entrepreneur that inspired our students. I know some of you guys know Trent Griffin, founder of Tech Valley Shuttle. Of course, Nicholas Clay, founder of Being One World LLC. Walter Thorne, who I just recently met. He's the marketing president and publisher of the Albany Business Review. He's actually going to come to Schenectady High School in May, and he's going to discuss AI and how that's going to affect our students and education, which I'm excited to see. We've had board member Jamaica Miles speak to our students with Fatima Bay, who's a dual entrepreneur, and board member Jamaica, co-founder of All of Us Community. Once again, Andre Goodby. We have the plumbers and steam fitters, Local 7 come. So, I end with this. Once again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in front of you all. Once again, I want to thank my teammates. They hold me accountable, and they help inspire me every day. And of course, our students. This is why we're here for. At this particular moment, what I'm going to do is pass it along to Mr. Preston, who actually helped get me here at Schenectady High School. Him and I went to St. Rose, and we took a couple of classes together, and he told me about an opportunity of being an AP here, and I never looked back. So major shout out to Mr. Preston, who's the principal of the STEM LC.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. So I'm going to present on the STEM leadership community. I guess I'll go to the next slide as well. We've been doing a lot in the STEM leadership community. Right now we're in a good position to continue to grow and expand our programs and community partnerships. The two pathways that we have solidified in the STEM leadership community is our computer science pathway. Steph Young has really done a great job of taking the lead of our computer science program. She's out on maternity right now, but we're hopeful to get her back soon. She's still, I think, leading a field trip to Siena this Friday for 4 of our seniors who are going there for a computer science competition. So she's been working with Bob McCarthy on that while she's been out. But that computer science program, we're partnered with Siena College. We also get to connect with RPI students. So right now, while she's been out on maternity leave, we've had a college student at Siena College that is in the computer science program leading that course. Our local partners with computer science are also SCCC, S-Cube, which is a local Schenectady-based tech company that actually hires a number of our seniors over the summertime. Last year they came in and did an assembly. They ended up wanting to hire 4 students for their summer internship program, which is 40 hours a week. I believe it's $17 an hour, paid internships. 1 day a week, they meet with the executive leadership team there and work with them on strategizing their business, and the students are a part of those conversations. So they're a very strong partner with us, as well as the Janelle Group, which we are going on a field trip on April 25th from 9 to 12 down to the Janelle Group headquarters. They do a great job of doing a tour. Their facility is really cool. It's like going to Google, you know, ping pong table, pool tables, but also a lot of workstations. And, you know, Janelle Group actually also has Jessie Zweigenthal, who is one of their executive leadership team there. That's a graduate of Schenectady High. So when she comes in and does the assemblies, it's really meaningful for her as well as our students. We also have a Makerspace Enterprise pathway, where our students learn how to use laser cutters, vinyl cutters, 3D printers, CNC routers. They start to design their own clothing lines. They work on designing coffee mugs and things like that to sell in the enterprise course. I met with Professor Cohen today, who's going to start to connect with City Connect, Schenectady City Connect, on trying to gain an employment option for those students so they can get paid for the jobs that they're doing on creating those kinds of materials. The Makerspace class is absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite classes to go into. Students are so creative. You know, we've had about 3 former graduates come out of that program with their own clothing lines that they've started to develop while they're in college. So the partners that we have with Makerspace are the Fab Foundation, which is led by Neil Goldenscheider, who is at MIT, and Sherry Laster, who founded the Fab Foundation. They're an international organization that really tries to get you know, the materials needed for the Fab Labs, for the Makerspace Labs into schools and communities. Really cool organization to be partnered with, as well as GE and GE Edison's group, which I had never really heard of before, but they have a really great model for employment where they allow their new employees to work at different locations and different jobs for 6 months at a time while they travel around the country to find their real pathway so they stay within the organization. I'm meeting with them tomorrow about a field trip down to their main campus to see the lab and tour that with students. Global Foundries, huge partner. They always do assemblies and host us for field trips, as well as CFES Brilliant Pathways, who's our outside consultant for New York Gear Up. So I've worked with them for 7 years. They really have amazing programs. One of the things that you'll see on my slide is the School Distinction Award. Ms. Hoffman and I were in Burlington, Vermont, to accept Schenectady High's School Distinction Award for all the programs and services and the peer mentoring that we do. And I actually presented at the conference about our peer mentoring model. They've also allowed us to engage in the UVM Business Pitch Challenge, which Dr. Pini and I partnered up on, where students were able to pitch a business idea to the University of Vermont, the dean of the School of Business, and if they were one of the top 5 student groups, the students in those groups were offered a full scholarship to University of Vermont, $5,000 cash or $3,000 cash. So that's a huge partner for us, and they're also working on developing a Young Men of Talent program with University of Vermont, where I've worked with Mr. Ledbetter and MBK, where they are looking to provide a pathway for students of color who have families that earn less than $75,000 to give them a full scholarship to school, as well as provide books, rooms, and also a way to get to and from school when there's breaks, right? So the families don't have to worry about those added expenses. Where we're going in the future, our third pathway is in the works as we look to expand the drone programs and courses that we offer. In a couple of years, we hope to provide a certificated drone program so that students graduate the pathway with a remote pilot certificate from the FAA. And we're working again with GE and to redevelop our GE Inspire program. A number of years ago, pre-COVID, students from Schenectady High School would go to GE on Monday nights for 10 weeks and work with scientists at GE Global Research on a project that the students were driven to do And with those scientists, they would then present all of their findings and their science at the end of the year festival, right around Christmas time at GE Global Research. Great. So I am working with Jeanette Roberts on bringing that back as they become less remote and more in person. That's been kind of our biggest hang up. Those are the things that we've done to define our LC. We've done a number of field trips. We've gone to the Albany College of Pharmacy. We're going to the Janelle Group, Global Foundries, GE's main campus, GE Renewable Energy, like I said, GE Inspire. We've also done 2 field trips at Proctor's. One of them was to see a film and to discuss and talk with Dr. Marshall Jones, who was a black scientist who invented and pioneered the laser. So that was really cool. The students got to engage in that. And right before break, we partnered with RPI to view Oppenheimer. RPI is working on gaining more ground and more interest in the field of nuclear energy. And so they kind of spearheaded that with the Oppenheimer movie. It was really amazing. You can see that up there in the middle. That's James Olson, who's a professor at RPI, leading a discussion around what's going on in the movie and how a lot of what happened in that movie was really based out of what was being researched in Schenectady. He kept bringing it back to Schenectady and how do we get back to that pathway. And then later on this month, we're going down to SEC for their STEM Day. Dr. Lori Harris leads that. She's a friend and a neighbor. So she's made sure that we're well aware of those situations, and she's bringing us down there for that. Partnerships that I haven't mentioned, John Ashcroft from Naval Nuclear Labs. I really think that's kind of how we continue to get the connection with RPI around this nuclear energy, because he was talking to me about that in August and how we wanted to eventually create a pathway to RPI for Schenectady students with scholarship opportunities at RPI at the end, because he's also on the board for the School of Engineering at RPI. Our peer mentoring program, which you'll see next to the School Distinction Award, that is actually our student peer mentoring group in our library working with Fatima Bey, who has been leading a really deep discussion with our students about their own personal growth. We also had a airline captain from Southwest Airlines come in and talk with our computer science students, and I pulled Alyssa Cook into that. Union College's Dean of Engineering, Ashok Ramasubramanian, has been working with our freshman students in the algebra classes and also with the teachers on developing a curriculum that's more accessible. My last thing I'm going to mention is that at the end of May, we're going to be having a former student graduate, Hope Glenn, coming in to speak with our students in the STEM leadership community. She is a Schenectady graduate, soon to be Howard graduate, NASA summer intern for aerospace engineering, and accepted to MIT and Harvard to pursue that at the master's level come fall. So we are really excited for everything that we're doing there. A couple of cool pictures up there. I'll be really quick. The JG mugshot, that's something they do within their company for the Janelle Group. So they gave me a coffee mug about 2 years ago. I brought it with us to Spain. That's actually a Montserrat, which is a monastery in Spain that I brought a student group to during February break. I sent that to them, hoping to get some votes that that's one of the best mug shots they have. You'll see a freshman in the bio lab on rat day doing a dissection. Students in the top right, that is at the Albany College of Pharmacy where they're working in the labs. Bottom right, you can't really see it, but that's my friend Ryan Fiorito, who is the Southwest Airlines pilot, who came to speak with our students. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight that both of the students that assist with the school board are STEM Leadership Academy students. So very happy to see that here as well. And that concludes everything I have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Green for the questions.
Right? We have done a lot, but we have a lot to do. Right? Field trips, assemblies, inspiration, all great stuff, but we still have a mission, and that's raising our graduation rates, getting our students through the toughest of times and supporting them, holding them to high expectations with high support, right? So we have a lot to go, but it's exciting to hear the stuff, where we've gone, where we are, and where we're headed. Because that is the inspiration we need as adults to continue to move forward, right? And seeing young people smiling and being inspired is what we need to continue to move. Not expired. Inspired.
I know what we know what you meant. We know
Just
what
like
you
I tell my
meant.
kids, we all make mistakes. I'm just a bigger version of them.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, you know, I'll conclude with what we're looking at for the schedule. You know, we're going through a lot of change and what's happening in our building as far as our rebuild, which is awesome. I'm super jealous that, you know, Freshman Academy, I saw those pictures. I can't wait for 4 or 5 years for us, or hopefully earlier. I know Mr. Little's group, even though the focus is Freshman Academy at SCLA right now, he has done a tremendous job, him and his team, at meeting with each leadership community group of teachers to discuss what is the need for each building. Like, what is it that you want to see? Bringing in students, like, what is it that you want to see in this building? Of course, our young people are always talking about the bathrooms. But space, like common space that we can have meetings and beautiful classrooms that, you know, we're all proud to walk into in a building. So they've done a phenomenal job at leading us through that journey. So we're looking at our schedule after, you know, we did the district survey. We took a look at what our young people are saying through the district survey. We've had groups of young people meet to discuss scheduling. We are in a different age. We can say post-pandemic, but I think we're just in a different era than where we all were as young people, and information is moving so fast. And while longer classes, you think longer classes create time for engagement and projects, sometimes the young people get antsy, and it's really tough to sit through long classes. So, you know, we've done research. We looked at other local schools and what is everyone else doing? And it's not about keeping up with the Joneses, it's about doing what's best for our students. And through some surveys and group discussions with teachers and students, we are leaning toward a straight 8 schedule, which means 8 periods. And we're doing this for some reasons, for consistency, right? Frequency and seeing your teachers every single day, building that relationship. We have a lot of construction to happen in the future. A lot of changes are happening, and what we want is consistency for our young people to know every day this is where I'm going, and not have so much change while so much change is happening. While no final decisions are made, we have a lean toward this schedule at this time. But you know, Dr. Cotto, myself, Mr. O'Mealy, and some others are certainly discussing what is best. And we're taking the input of those that are affected the most, and that is our teachers and our students. So I will conclude with that. I certainly appreciate our team, and it's not just about our admin team, our team at the high school, teachers, paraprofessionals, school counselors, social workers, parent engagement. I mean, collectively as a whole, it literally takes a village, and I'm going to take that from Miss Shonda Banks because she says it all the time, but it's so true. It takes a village. So everything you see here is a bunch of people working together to create some things happening. All right, so questions?
Before we begin with our questions, I just want to remind our board with our group agreements, we agreed to maintain a focus on what's best for our students, 1 mic, 1 voice, so 1 person talking at a time, ensure a safe space for all views to be expressed, treating each other and staff respectfully, more specifically showing kindness, courtesy, and politeness, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening and considering with an open mind while others are allowed to express their points of view even if one disagrees. Our meeting protocols, I invite each board member to ask 3 questions at a time, board members and student board members, to ask 3 questions at a time to allow all voices and wonderings to be shared. BOE members are welcome to pass And after the first line of questioning, we can re-invite those who pass to ask questions. If others have questions after the 3 questions protocol, we will open the floor for additional Q&A, if time permits. Also, if you have comments, please wait until each board member has an opportunity to ask their 3 questions first, unless the brief comment is to frame your question. You will be asked to kindly state your question if you veer off from the protocol. I will start with my left. Are there any questions, board members or student board members? Okay, so we will start with student board member Zohana.
So Hannah, those are a lot of rules to abide by.
Okay, so to go back to the straight 8 period, I was thinking maybe you can take into suggestion. So for 8 periods, maybe Monday to Wednesday, you can have 8 periods straight, and from Thursdays and Fridays, like 4 and 4. Like, you know, that would make, like, if teachers have like tests or projects, it'll give that time to do it like either on a Thursday or a Friday.
Or maybe time for our clubs and other things.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Thank you, Zoe.
Board member Vivian.
2 questions. So, from what I understand, one of the concerns about having the straight 8 schedule previously was a lot of chaos in the halls in between each period. So then we moved to the block periods. Those are definitely not working. I think most of us can agree. Going back to the straight 8, how are we going to correct the issue that prompted the block periods in the first place?
So couple things. I'm prepared for that. I came over to the high school during that period, and we switched to 4 blocks. So it was a rotation of 4 blocks. So in 2 days, you got 8 classes. We are currently in a straight 8 now, except we have blocks and mods. So there's a block that has 2 mods that live in it. Right? I had the same look when it was first introduced to me. So we have the same transitions now. We have the same amount of bells now. It's just that when our mods release, some of our students are still in blocks. But because of the length of time of a block, teachers are giving students that break at that bell anyway. So the whole building is dumping at the same time because 90 minutes in a classroom is extremely tough for the teacher and for the student. So we really have that same structure now. And I'll take it back to that was the year we came back from the pandemic, right? So really tough time. And we only had 3 or 4 hall monitors at that point in time. We are now up to, thanks to Jeff, 26 safety team members. So very different time, including a very different culture and climate. That our team has built over these past couple years.
Thank you. Follow-up question. This is my number 2. So with the increased instructional time, I know one of the complaints that I've heard is that not every teacher was properly utilizing the instructional time efficiently. So instead of providing students with a little bit of material and then give them time to absorb it, they just peppering them with packet after packet after packet. It's not very productive. So I don't know how long we're looking at the instructional period to be for each period. I don't know, is 40 minutes enough? Is 50 minutes just that sweet spot? Are we considering maybe a little bit longer of a time for students who are taking the more advanced courses? Maybe they need a little bit more of an instructional period. Have we looked at that?
So right now, we are looking at roughly 45 minutes per period. And when we look at other schools in that model, we certainly look at their success rate, their attendance rate, their graduation rate, and compare that to see how we would fare in that. But we won't know until we know. But we have looked at all models. Some models, if we cut down to like a straight 7, then we're risking our young people not having the electives, the opportunities for electives, because that's really what it's about. It's about choice and how much can we offer in a day, because our 9th graders are very, their schedules set, right? There's not much room. But as you move up to 10th, 11th, 10th is a little bit more like 9th, but 11th and 12th grade, once you've received, close to your credits, that's where you begin to take those one-offs, right? And you get to take those classes, those specials. So we don't really want to lose that either, because it's about student choice.
And I'm going to just interrupt for a minute. Student board members Johanna and Joyce, you are excused from the rest of the meeting. Have a good evening.
Thank you, young people.
And last question, so with all of the opportunities that are being afforded by each leadership community, first of all, shout out to each and every one of you. I think that your efforts are tremendous, and I can't wait to see years down the road what this is gonna lead to. I think this is wonderful. I'm very, very impressed. However, what I want to know is, with the increased opportunities for higher education, exposure to advocacy, exposure to internships, which are wonderful and I feel like essential if we're going to help build a well-rounded student, how are we working to, how does that connect to closing the gap with some of this significant deficiencies in reading level?
Sure.
With our high school students, yes, they should be exposed to these higher opportunities, but they need to be able to read.
Yeah. So, great question, and it starts at the lower levels, and unfortunately, we're the high school, and this is where it ends, and to think that we're going to be able to catch someone up in the 4 years when there's been 9 or 8, right? So we have a group of teachers who come in on Saturdays, once a month. Teachers and administrators, we meet on Saturdays as a literacy group to start tackling that issue, to look at the research, look at the data. What is it that we can do to catch our students up as quickly and as efficiently as we can, to get them to where they need to be to pass, to meet those New York State standards, to pass those regents. So and that's why I led at the end with, we still have a long way to go. Like, that's all great, I agree, great job, but we have so many more hurdles to get over, to get to where we really want to be, so that we're not leaving the 20% behind, because we don't leave any of our young people behind. So there's a lot of work. That's my answer to that question, is we have a lot of work to do, K through 12. And I don't say, K through 6 is the issue. We are part of it as well, and whatever we can catch and assist, then that's what we're here to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to share just, I don't know if this is on, just to share kind of the impact of this and what we're doing as a district as it relates to moving this down even to elementary. Because I think at the end of the day, when we connect our youth to what they're interested in, we see the change happen, and they start to see and understand the importance of education. So from STEM to all these different community pathways, and again, we're seeing it now at the high school. We're going to start to expose students and we already started with career jams and ways in which to really, it comes back to access and opportunity, and the earlier that we can do that, the better. But as we look at our STEAM programs and the programs that we offer even at the elementary level, students are starting to see the connection, and that's the important piece of this, is to connect to what does reality look like as far as what I want to be and who I want to be in life, and how now do I look at education to anchor how I get to accomplish those goals. So this is just the end as it relates to what we kind of do at the high school, but our goal is to see this happen at the elementary and then build it out. So when students transition from elementary to middle, they're starting to see, and this exploratory model starts even at the middle school, so that when they get to high school, now they're well informed on who they want to be, to some extent.
Any other questions from board members to my left?
I have a comment, so I'll wait until the end.
Okay, thank you, Vice President. Board members to my right? Board Member Kathy?
Following up on Vivian's question, I had much the same with, and you don't need to give me any details tonight particularly, but how the core math, English, science, and social studies are being integrated into these exciting programs that you have, and particularly into the specific pathways. I'd kind of like to see how one of those, well, maybe a couple or whatever, probably not all of them, because I heard about 7 or 8 pathways in each leadership community, but how those core subjects are being
Sure.
integrated into their straight 8 day, into that particular pathway. Maybe those logistics haven't been worked out yet, but
So I
that's
can
what I'm
share,
interested in.
I mean, I can share the vision of where
Right.
we want to be. Is we certainly have to stick to New York State standards, right?
Yes.
But you're in English class, you have to read something. Why not read about the career, right? So that's how we're looking at it. Is what core subjects can take the content that we're supposed to do and incorporate careers, college within those, like social studies. We heard a lot about social studies. There's history of jobs in social studies. So when talking about a specific era, then you talk about inventions, right? You got STEM in there, you have humanities in there. So really relating that content, being culturally responsive.
And the second question I have is in regard to the selection of students for each of these, we used to call them houses, these leadership communities. And along with that, the AVID selection that was mentioned, particularly, how are we ensuring that students are informed about it, but that we're not biased in who we're letting in, et cetera, into a particular program?
So we're very mindful about that and making sure that we're not biased about who is selecting what community. And as Mr. Wyman said, we have a signing day. Students are exposed throughout the year to various leadership communities to gain interest. Each leadership community presents to the students about their pathways so that they can choose. They sit down with their school counselors and have that discussion. What is it that you want to do? What do you see yourself doing? What are your interests? And we try our hardest to make sure every student gets their first choice, but there is a balance there. We can't have one leadership community with 1,100 students and one with 150, right? So we try to balance that by giving them options, but really fitting their needs. And we know young people don't always know what they want to do. I mean, I didn't know.
That.
Right, I didn't know forever, right? So there are off ramps, and at times our principals come to me and say, hey, so and so wants to go into this. Well, let's have a conversation with their parent. Why is the why? What are they interested in? And we'll make that swap. So we're always looking at off ramps, but we always want to give them an option and a choice, but inspire them also. Again, I didn't know I was going to be here well until my 30s or 20s, so I'm getting old.
And my third question.
That wasn't three, you had a two-parter, that's not.
No, I didn't. I didn't have a two-parter. My third question is related to the term was, first of all, we've always tried to emphasize that not so many acronyms so remind people, at least in our audience, of what AVID stands for and what is happening with WICOR. That one was a new one for me, frankly, and I've been here a while. So I just don't know what that is.
AVID,
Stands for.
I knew you were going to, Advanced via Individual Determination.
I
Thank
thought
you. God, I almost had it all.
Determination is in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And WICOR, how I describe, and we have our district leader in AVID, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but how I describe WICOR is a group of strategies, higher level practices that teachers utilize in a classroom to engage students, to have students engage with each other, writing activities, and I'm pretty on that. Writing. Look at this. Love it. Lifting each other up. So it's really higher level practices. And to your point about how do they choose that? Incoming freshmen, they have a multiple, while their schedule is set, they have an opportunity to either go JROTC, AVID, and or FE, where they learn about different pathways.
FE is.
Freshman experience, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Maybe everybody knew that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm kind of going to go along the same lines of Vivian and Board Member Vivian and Board Member Kathy. And the superintendent search, there were several things that people said, and one of the things that resonated, the first one was academics. So I have several wonders, and I'm gonna be a devil's advocate a little bit too, but, well, I have 3 wonders. So the first one is, in the superintendent search, several people, and some of them, many identified as educators, whether teachers, paras, and also students, were concerned about the challenges that students, again, are having with reading and writing. So my wonder is, and because we're doing the budget conversation, do we have the necessary supports for, because the reality is we have students that are at below reading level and they're struggling, and because they're struggling, there's behaviors that come along with that. Do we have the support, ideally, do we have the supports, and if we don't have the supports, what would help you? And I'm asking that specifically too, because we are in budget season.
Sure. So at the basis, every teacher is a reading teacher, right? But reading specialists are very different. Reading specialists know how to get a student to the level where they're at. So when we talk about the supports, I would never sit here and say, yeah, we have the supports. We could always use supports in that area. The data doesn't lie. So we would certainly need support in that area. And whether that's people coming in or professional development for our teachers, I mean, our teachers can do it, but it's about that professional development on how to. What is the proper way to do it, and how do we move forward doing it?
Okay. And then again, I'm being the devil's advocate. I'm not saying so because some of the things that I saw from the survey is the fatigue. The teachers are feeling like, I can't get through the content. I have the Regents exam, then now I have to support our students with reading, which I agree with you. All teachers are reading not specialists. Those are skills that all of us have to support our students with, but not all of us are specialists in those areas. So my other, and I just lost my train of thought, but in saying that, what do you think we can do as a board to help support the multitude of, I know there's a lot of stress, frustration. It's been a tough year. I know it's been a tough year. And ideally, again, because we can't promise anything, but we're budget season,
Sure.
What other things can we do in addition to specialists, let's say, but to relieve some of that fatigue, stress on all staff, not just teachers, all staff. And I know I'm throwing, you don't even have to answer now. You can email me, you can email us later, but I think now is an opportune time. Again, I can't make any promises, but I do know that the high school, with all the great things that are going on, they're fatigued, you're fatigued. It's tough. So again, you don't have to answer now, but if you can, that would be helpful if we can get that information of what specifically can support you all. In terms of academics, fatigue, and the reason I mentioned fatigue too, because safety was a big issue and it was connected together. So I know I'm commenting, but I'm also asking so that we can better have the conversations, and even if we can't do it this year, perhaps we can do it next year. Okay.
So I will get back to you on that because my first thought is I have a whole building full of teachers that can provide a collaborative answer to that. For me to sit here and tell you what they need, I need to ask them, what is it that we need as a group, as a building?
Perfect, okay. And my last question is a quick one.
Is that 3? I'm counting. I know Mr. Wyman said I wasn't good at algebra, but.
Everyone is doing a lot of math right now. No, just my last question. The eight periods, is it going to be the same class every single day, or are students going to meet with the teachers 3 times a week? So how is that going to work?
So it's similar to the middle school model. So your core classes, the majority of your core classes, all your core classes will meet every day. There will be some specials that can meet every day, and there will be some that meet on that A and B day type rotation. PE, and then something has to go up against PE. So maybe like a health would be every other day with a PE every other day. So your core subjects every single day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Vice President Nohalani?
So
As a parent, this is just a comment, as a parent and alumni of the district, I want to genuinely applaud each and every one of you in the room that's making this work happen. I can't tell you how excited I was listening to each of you speak and the passion and the excitement that you each shared regarding these leadership academies and kind of what our students have to look forward to. I will say that high school version, Noe, that graduated from SHS, you know, I took Africana Studies. I'm calling it Africana Studies. It was a half-year course, and I remember wondering why. Why is this a half-year course and that sort of thing? And I know this is kind of going back to kind of a discussion we had earlier, but even knowing that we're trying to make headway, we're trying to move in the right direction for students like myself, who was questioning how come I can't learn more about myself and have that reflected. I'm really grateful for just pretty much all of it. Again, kind of going back to this presentation, Steinmetz is near and dear to my heart. That was my 6th grade school before the board decided to redistrict us. So I ended up at Central Park, but to see Mr. Little and your group, what you guys have envisioned and put together, like, I can't wait to get in there. I can't wait to go and just experience it. You know, just business plans. Oh, okay. Well, please let me know, and I would love to see
Can we
this.
get a hammer?
But, yeah, I'll help, whatever I can do. But no, like Dr. Pena, you mentioned like business plans, and you know, we're talking about our kids and 3D printing and creating their own clothing lines. Like, I'm literally over the moon with what I heard. I was over here silently snapping to myself and trying not to dance in my seat. So thank you, because I think this is very important. I think it does tie directly to kind of all of what, you know, the board members, my fellow board members were saying. We want our students to thrive, and we want them to do it well. And we know that there are opportunities and there's some gaps, and I think that when you present students with things that they can identify with, that they can actually look at and say, I could do that. Like, I'm in the middle of pursuing my MBA, and I'm like, if I had a program that was dedicated to this, maybe I would have pursued that a little sooner, right? I don't know, but I just really wanted to say thank you, because this is excellent work. I can't wait to see like what happens going forward, and I just wanted to thank you all. That's all. That's all I've got.
One more question, if that's okay?
Board Member Vivian?
So, looking at the additional supports, trying to close that gap, I know that one of the resources available for high school students is the academic lab. Here's my issue. So you can have 20 students who need help in several different subjects in an academic lab, right? So the resource available is kind of divided. Is there any way possible that we can look into implementing a resource in that child's schedule that does not necessarily or solely require them to give up their lunch, which is 30 minutes, or stay after school, which they may or may not do, but if the subject-specific support is built into their schedule, I feel like that would be a little bit more proactive in trying to close some of these academic gaps. Yes, we have the conversation, yes, we do the research, but our students are hemorrhaging now.
Yeah. So one piece of academic lab, while some of it does happen at lunch, the majority of it takes place when they have a study hall. So the team will identify students that are struggling early on. Every 5 weeks, we're looking at that, and we're removing, if they have a study hall, we're removing them from a study hall for a period of time and placing them in that academic lab with a group of teachers in there. But we're always looking at improvement. So to embed that into a schedule is ideal. In place of a study hall, I am not a big fan of study halls. The word study hall makes no sense, because then they want to study the halls. And I've heard it a lot. So absolutely, it's something that we can look at. But the team, like, we have a Google document that we are constantly looking at that and saying, all right, who do we need to put in there for a 6-week period? Because then we look at, where did they start and where do they end that 6 week? Do they need to continue that, or do they need to go back into a class, or maybe even take the study hall away and get them into another class? But we're always looking at that. So absolutely embedded in the schedule makes sense.
Yeah, just going back to the need for topic specific, because, your teacher may not necessarily be able to get to the 3 math needs at different grade levels and the 2 English needs, and it may not be the most practical approach in trying to close a gap if it's not subject specific.
Sure,
So.
absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for a very comprehensive presentation. We know, like everything now, we can report it back. No, we can't. But we thank you for all the great work, and I, ditto exactly what Vice President Nohalani said. I was thinking, wait, I want to get into plumbing. Wait, no, electricity. No, I wanted to. I mean, it was really exciting to hear all the opportunities that we have in Schenectady, and I think it's great for the audience and for the board to hear this, because I know a lot of people do not know all these avenues that our students can participate in. So we thank you so much for coming out and talking with us. And I also want to thank Carmela and Valerie, because we had a really engaging conversation there, right? But we appreciate you always being willing, all of you, being willing to have those tough, courageous conversations and listening to divergent views, because as I always say, that's really important in the democratic process, and this is what we have to do, and this is why we're here as board members. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you.
And I would just like to follow up, because I think that we've only skimmed the surface. I think all of what's been shared, the relationships that we've established in the community as a whole, going to provide a wealth of other opportunities. So, but thank you all for sharing your passion, your commitment to this work, and we truly are rising and will continue to rise. Thank you. A lot of work. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good night.
Before I came, I was never drinking.
So our final presentation tonight is our budget presentation by CFO Terry Gululi. Welcome.
Yes, all right. All right, this is the last presentation before the budget adoption in 2 weeks board meeting. As you know, going through this process, we talked about, the enrollment of each building, the FTEs at each building, the different various departments. We went through a staffing, like to answer your question that you asked Mr. Green, we had every principal into these staffing meetings, the teaching and learning department, special education department, looked at what the students' needs, the instructional coaches, so we have staffed the buildings accordingly to what is needed, and if there's special areas that more attention is needed at each building, we have provided that in the budget, maybe not to the extreme or to the extent that they wish they had, but what we have currently are aware of and how we are able to support that going through all the buildings' budgets. Again, as our pillars and mission. So the overall budget development, this has since been updated. The New York State budget has added, I believe, another extension to the April 12th.
16th.
So is it the 16th now? So when I did this a couple days ago, it was extended through the 8th and now through the 16th. So we still don't have our final state aid numbers, which any changes we don't think would impact us significantly. So we're going to go with what we currently have, and hopefully by the budget adoption, if anything needs to change, we'll make those necessary changes, and I'll make you aware of any changes that we do have. Again, no tax increase planned for the 24-25 budget, and we are maintaining all of our current programs and staffing. If anything, added more staffing to areas of need. Again, the large picture, we are looking at a $12,464,000 budget increase, which is 4.7% from the final year. from the prior year. These are just budget numbers, not actual, obviously, from what we adopted last year to this year. We slid a little picture in there. Who had dragged that out? The revenues, we reviewed those previously. Again, state aid, significant change from prior year budget to the current year budget. Some factors that have changed throughout the current year, additional expenditures. So our total state aid is going up approximately $12 million. Our tax levy, the changes in there, when I say maintains the same, but that includes like our pilot programs. So the actual levy that we're charging out is the same, but some of our pilot have gone down because people are now on the tax roll rather than paying the pilot. Again, fund balance using what we are currently using last year, the same amount. Again, those are for basically expenditures that we expect to expend in 24-25 from savings that we have in the current year. Last year, our budget went up significantly during the year based on changes in the foundation. What we knew at the time of passing our budget, we got a little bit more in foundation aid and revenue, got a little more in transportation aid. So our revenue sources, our current projected is going to be more than what we actually budgeted for. So that's why we're using these savings. We'll have additional money to use for what we have budgeted in the current budget for part of our expenses, about $10 million. Again, we don't expect to tap into that. Throughout this budget, we have every vacant position budgeted for within the budget, and that's about $9 million worth of vacant positions that we are unable to fill in the current year. So if we fill those next year, those would be the projected. Just historical, nothing new here, just showing you the variance, the increases of what we have come to with our foundation aid and how we are fully funded now based on the formula with this slight change in the governor's proposal, and that's still being worked on through New York State. Tax cap, again, if we did go out with a tax percent increase, the maximum we would be able to go out is 3.24%, which would be about 1.6 million. So if we were in that place where we needed to raise taxes to generate more revenue, the maximum we would be able to do without getting more than 50% of our vote would be 3.24%. But if we went above that, we need 60% of the vote if we wanted to get higher than 3.24, but we're not in that place right now. So we're definitely recommending another 0% tax levy increase. And remember, as we spoke about at the last few meetings, the historical effect, the effect of that on future budgets. You know, when we do decide if we have to raise taxes, we're going to continue to raise that to 51 million until we start reaching that point where we could continue to raise them. It would be added on to what the new tax levy would be. So like next year, if we decide to go out at, 2%, it's going to be on the 51 million, not the 53 million if we go out flat now this year. So we are like losing money, and everybody says don't ever go out at zero, but where we are right now, we feel comfortable that we're able to maintain and sustain future years of transportation and debt service for prior year projects, and our student support services. So those are approximately about the same. So each department, I'm not going to go into much detail about them all. We'll provide line by line at the budget adoption prior to that, so you're able to review it. But basically, summary of each department's totals. You see some significant changes. That's because either we've added new positions or we have moved people into those departments that may have been maybe coded to like just a high school where actually they do district-wide programming. So we put them into the like innovation, equity, and engagement. So it's just basically moving people around, but not like adding new people. So the dollar amounts may look well, why did that really go up 400,000? We may have had that employee here last year without going back and changing what we presented last year. They're in the right category now, just making sure people are reported in the right place. The business office and our legal human resources supports, nothing major or significant. The business office, we are adding, we moved some people out of the DIPA, planning and accountability, over into the business office that relate to the grants. We added a new purchasing assistant position. We currently only have one purchasing agent, and we just added another a purchasing assistant, which was board approved, I think, last month. So, a couple new positions, adding more support. We are getting bigger. One person that handle all the purchasing was a lot, so we are fully staffed in the business office. We need accounts payable. He's kind of doing dual role right now, but that's been posted and waiting to fill that position. Our legal support and our human resources, just a report, because it's just our time clocks that we've been approved in the employees' contracts have arrived. They've just been delivered, so we were looking to implement those throughout the summer, and then next school year, we'll have time clocks for those unions that we negotiated with to get time clocks. Central services, again, we talked about them last meeting. Again, that's to support our operations of plants and the maintenance of plants, all the staff, the improvements to the buildings, electricity, anything else to keep these buildings operating. It's a large percentage of our budget. Sorry about that. Climate and safety, that increase of fully staffing our safety team throughout all the buildings, has made a significant impact in the culture. So something that we still look to maintain throughout the budget. And then basically special items, our general insurance, association dues that we are memberships to, refunded taxes, and our required capital and admin BOCES that they charge us for their services. Administration and improvement, this is our curriculum. Our administrators at every building, every elementary staff elementary building has an assistant principal in addition to the principal. Middle school, about 3 or 4 assistant principals to their principal, and then the high school, you saw the team here. So that pretty much is all the administration piece. The curriculum and instruction is our assistant directors of each department. Instructional coaches that support the buildings at each building. Planning and accountability, that's our DIPA office, and our professional development that we provide now, all the teachers working with teaching and learning. They did a great job this year identifying the professional development for next school year already, so we know where we're going to be targeting, where our teachers and support staff should be attending, and also the in-house. Again, that went down a little bit, but last year it was overinflated a little bit, and we have it in the right category now to where it needs to be, like building level. So this is district-wide. General instruction budget obviously went up. That's basically salaries, contract obligations went up about $4 million. Our special education, we moved some people around again. That's why that looks like it's the same. It's still all the same programming. We moved some people that may have been in special education that shouldn't really belong there, that do other services throughout the district, so they were just appropriated to the right place. And our occupational education, that's our CTE programs that we send our students to BOCES in Tech Valley. I think we're approximately 140 of our 9th through 12th graders go to BOCES CTE programs. So that's that line item there. That's the cost of per pupil that we send our students to. Special programs, these are the Washington Irving, adult ed, summer school, night school programs that we support throughout the district. And then our instructional technology, our school library and media services, and our computer assistant instruction, all the IT support throughout all the buildings. Staff, our BOCES, our purchasing of hardware, software, state aid. Student support services, Andrea Tote Freeman, all the support for the students, the attendants, the school counselors, the health services, the psych, social workers, and the general district-wide office, main office. We have a lot more services than, as identified throughout other, area districts. We do have a lot of support. I know that question came up. How are we supporting our students? I know you've had presentations on that, so we are able to maintain that. A lot of that was previously paid for with some of those ARP and federal for the learning loss and the mental health, and we are now bringing that into the general fund. So you see some of the increases in those departments, and that's why that's so much. But that is basically moving it from the federal funds into the general fund. And then our co-curricular and athletics programs. Transportation, we talked about last meeting. increase due to the cost, the number of specialized services that we're offering. And we also talked about, we have to adhere to the 5.5 out of district. We have received some requests that we'll be bringing to you next meeting, that for non-public schools that people are looking for transportation, and we'll make the recommendation if we want to support that or not. But we, based on our policy, are not as a city school to provide transportation beyond the 5.5 miles that we do provide. We're able to support our BOCES programs, but not any of the non-public schools. Our benefits, the increase in health insurance. Tomorrow is our final rate setting for what our increase may or may not be. We went through it with the insurance committee 2 weeks ago, and then tomorrow we're gonna meet again to set the final rates for contribution. The premiums are set by contract for what the employees contribute, but then what is the increase in premium for the following year. Our debt service, it went up, as you can see, but basically it's the same as it's been for the last few years, but last year we had prior administration built up a balance in debt service fund that should not have been there. So we used that money that was in that fund to pay down some of the debt from last year. So we're basically maintaining the level that we have been in previous years. That's why it looks like the big change there. And then our interfund transfers, special ed for our summer programs, students that attend summer programs that we have to fund that we do not get reimbursed for. Part transportation, we only get I think it's like 75% for received back from the state, so we have to pay the additional 25%. Capital outlay, that's something that we do every year, where we receive state aid back the following year. The state allows you to do one project for $100,000. We have not identified that project yet for the 24-25 school year, but it gives us the opportunity to get the aid in the same year that you do the project. So next year, we'll do a $100,000 project, we'll get back the aid in the same year. And then the 1.5, it's just, things come up throughout the school year. Like this year, we had the emergency over at the Hamilton. Where's that money come from? So it's good to have some money there reserved if we necessarily need it. So it's not something that we would typically use, but if it's necessary, we have that money there. And if we have to have an emergency project, we know they have the money available to do those type of projects. The Mount Pleasant fields, like the concession stand, that kind of work that was above and a little more than what we originally projected to do the whole field. Although majority of that's being paid out of the federal fund, some things are not eligible to get aid or eligible to in the ARP funds. So if we have to add some money additional to that, we have this money here set aside for that. All right. Just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the propositions that will be on the budget vote on the day of the budget vote on May 21st. Obviously the budget. We have 2 board members whose terms are expiring, Erica and Jamaica. So those 2 positions will be voted on to be replaced. And as you passed previous board meetings, the resolutions for the sale of the small piece of land at 2310 Gilliland Avenue that we became aware of when we did the surveys of the Van Corlear School for the project. So the public has to vote on that anytime you sell a piece of land. It's actually part of this house, so we really have no use for that land. It's a very small area. And then as also the resolution we passed when we talked about the SECRA that wasn't included in the original budget, the capital project vote, that no change in the dollar amounts or anything. It's just allowing us to do an addition to the Kane Elementary School and in addition to the Pleasant Valley School for the cafeteria work area. So by, we didn't include that wording in the capital project previously, so by just having that wording presented and passes a resolution, then the public has to vote on that. We could do that addition. If they don't vote for that, we'll still be able to do work on Keene. We just would not be able to have that addition where we would just go back out and re-vote to give the opportunity to better explain if that's the reason why they didn't understand it. But it's no more money, no financial impact at all on the capital project. Moving forward, obviously waiting for New York State's final numbers. Fund balance, again, making sure they can, by the end, the adoption is next 2 weeks from now. Then we have the public hearing, so basically reviewing anything that may come up within the next 2 weeks. Final review of the expenditures and the revenue, like I mentioned, the health insurance premiums set tomorrow. General insurance, still trying to get our final numbers from our general insurance. I have a projected amount, which I think is a comfortable amount that shouldn't have any change for what I'm presenting tonight. So any other things that may come up or we may become aware of, you gave Mr. Green the opportunity, so if he came back with something significant that we think we want to support, that we think we could afford and add, we make that necessary. He's not paying attention, don't worry about it. Then we have the April 24th Board of Education budget adoption. At that point, the board just accepts everything that we've been presenting. You'll have the detail that you, if you have any questions prior to that for what makes up any of those line items I just shared with you, just let me know and I'll provide that to you prior to the adoption. The New York State requirement, the May 8th budget hearing, it's after the fact that the board adopted anything. You really can't go back and change anything from what you already adopted. It's just more giving the public the opportunity to hear about the budget and any questions they may have so they have an informed decision on how to vote on the voting day. And then May 21st is the budget vote. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? Board member Amanda?
It's little. In the grand scheme of things, it really is little. But I was wondering, I saw there was an increase in the central printing and mailing expenses. Is there like a general initiative within the school district to try to go more paperless? Or is
No, there is. That's the hard part. Everybody loves math packets and, but we have.
I mean, I love tangible stuff.
No, I know,
too,
people like to
I'm
read
just
on paper.
asking.
We have one-to-one devices, but, that's something maybe teaching and learning could answer better. But I know the reason why that went up a little bit is we're replacing some of our print shop. If you have never seen our print shop and the capabilities of Mike DeMarco, what he does for all our teachers and how he supports them, what he gets to them, we're basically replacing some of that equipment. And it's going to be through bow season. We're going to get 8 on it. But that's part of that increase is replacing some of the equipment that we have down there. But we do try to go paperless. We do run reports once in a while and provide them to the principals, say, hey, what's going on here? This many copies. But it's hard, especially at the elementary level.
Thank you.
Yep.
Board member Kathy?
Terry, on the page 6, you have taxes at 58 million in 23-24, 59 million in 24-25. But what makes up those taxes relative to page 8, which shows the maximum tax levy at 2%?
Yeah,
that we could do.
That's the we get pilots, payment in lieu of
There's
taxes.
actual pilot, more pilot money in there.
Yep, that and we get a utility tax.
And the E-rate, is E-rate in there?
Nope, E-rate would be the miscellaneous revenue. So we get a utility tax. I think it's basically what is charged on residents' bills. You'll see it on like maybe your cell phone bill and your, I think, National Grid. It's a utility tax that we get, and it's part of the sales tax, so it's been going up, so we get more revenue for that.
Could you break that down?
Yeah, I could provide that for you. Yep.
And along with that, the
Michael, they're wrong.
the second question I had was about full-time, not necessarily full-time, but how many new people, total positions we're adding? Could we have a breakdown of what those positions are? I know you've built it in here.
Like new FTEs that
How
are
many new FTEs
positions that we created.
or part-time, or
Yep.
exactly that would be
Yeah, I can provide it.
useful. to
It's not
know.
many. And you're not talking about what we're replacing that are vacant positions. You're talking about actual new.
New positions.
We have a few like special ed for new special ed programs and a couple of restorative
There
practices.
might be some pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Yep.
And the third thing, in the past, we've had like an allocation to each school, based on the number of children in the school, a certain amount per student figured for expenses, starting school expenses, those kinds of things. you know, and trying to, I'm trying to think of the term we used, it was sort of a per capita thing. I mean, it was measured in hundreds, it wasn't
Yeah,
the
we,
total.
we, we will provide the
was trying to
budget
get some
booklet that will have the
equity.
breakdown by building, the budget booklet that will show you the expenditures for each building. We got away when I kind of started here about like how much allocating per building. We have to be equitable across the district and the needs. So some people are, you know, maybe better building their budget or with their requests. So basically, we gave everybody the opportunity to ask for what they need, and then we supply that to each building. So some programs might be like a special education program would be a higher level of need if they have more programs over at one of the elementary schools, and the other schools don't have that program.
And then there was the sort of, as I said, the supplies aspect of things that could be provided for
Yeah,
students.
the supplies, we allow each teacher to $300, and then we actually are doing the student supplies, teaching and learning, worked with each building leader and the teaching leaders and the units of each grade level, and we are providing the student supplies based on the enrollment, obviously, and what each building gets by grade. And we even got down to the size of the pencil for kindergartners compared to fifth graders. You know, it was a very good process, and it's working. So it's a lot of work, understandably, but we're giving the teachers the opportunity to get for what they need in their classrooms.
Thank you.
Okay. And Terry, I have two quick questions. In the past, we used to do like a budget roadshow where there were budget presentations at some of the schools. Are we doing that this year?
We have not. You know, we're here. You know, we have the opportunity on the website. Let's Talk, I think, has gotten rid of that. To be honest with you, I haven't had any particular budget question. I think it's because where we are, if we were raising taxes, more making cuts to programs, then I think then that would be when we would start doing the roadshow. But as of now, I think everybody's happy with the way we're maintaining things, adding things. You heard tonight what we provide. So until we start, you know, really the need, you know, we pay attention to Let's Talk. We have that opportunity, especially with the foundation aid increases. We had to show what we were spending those increases on. We don't have to do that this year, but every year we had to submit a report and had the Let's Talk opportunity. So we won't have, until we do that, I think we will go out to the buildings, kind of like we did with the capital project, to inform people what they're really voting on.
Okay. And then my second question, which I think you answered, we are going to still send out that budget booklet that we
Yeah,
normally do.
that hopefully should be done by the adoption. We're required to have a line-by-line budget available for the public view 7 days prior to the public hearing. But we want to have it done by the adoption, so you guys have that prior to, if you have any questions.
Okay.
And I can give it to you now, if you want me to just send you the line by line. It won't be the booklet, it'll be detailed line of the whole expenditures, then you have a chance to look at it prior to the adoption. I can send it to you, I have it. I'll send it out.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
One last tiny one.
Well, we're gonna-
HSE program, what does that stand for? It went down significantly.
That's, I believe, at the Washington Irving building, and it's grant funded. It's the EPI, I believe. Is that the high school equivalents? Is that HSE? I believe it's mostly grant funded, that's why.
And then if we
High
had.
school equivalent. So basically, you know, previously, we were funding a lot of it out of the general fund where it wasn't necessary, but we have the increase in grant money, so we are paying for that all out of the grants.
Yeah, and I'll ask the board if if they have additional questions on the budget, we will send you some questions, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, I will pause on my comments this evening, because I had a lot, but I will pause because we have other business to attend to. So at this moment, an executive session is now called for the advice from counsel on a particular contractual matter and matters related to particular students. I'll accept a motion to go into executive session. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Amanda. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Any discussion?
Board President Rivera, really quick, no opportunity for additional board member comments because exec session is called, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, in regards to the budget?
No, not in regards to the budget.
Oh, you had a comment that you wanted to share?
if that's all right?
Yep, quick.
Okay, very quickly, I just wanted to acknowledge something. At the beginning of the meeting, there were some comments made in respect to the current conflict in the Gaza Strip. And I would be neglectful if I did not acknowledge this. Any one of us sitting behind this table, it is very important that we do our best to avoid the appearance of biases towards one side or the other. We have community members who have direct ties to that area. We have community members who are Palestinian. We have community members who are Jewish. And this is an extremely sensitive and painful topic to discuss, regardless of what side of this conflict, of what side of opinion that you may have. It is incredibly sensitive. And it is a tad irresponsible for any one of us to imply support on one side while without acknowledging the other. We have to acknowledge the fact that we have community members in Schenectady that are Jewish, may even have direct ties to Israel. When they hear some of the comments shared earlier this evening, very well may be highly offended at that. There has been suffering and tragedy and pain on both sides of this conflict. So either we acknowledge that equally or we don't discuss it at all. So I had to say that, and I felt that it would be neglectful of me if I did not say something before the close of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. And since I did open it up for comments, any last comments from any other board members? Okay, so I will, so I made a motion. It was Amanda, board member, and a second Kathy,